Okay, thank you for being with us this afternoon. We are here for the San Juan School District Board meeting. Today's date is October 9th, 2024. And we will start, in attendance, we have our board members. Nelson Yelloman is virtual, but everyone else is in attendance. So if I can get a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda for Wednesday, October 9th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I missed that. A second?
Yes, that was Steve.
Oh.
Was the second. Okay, we start with our spotlight report, so we'll turn the time over to our superintendent for that. Thank you.
All right, today I'm going to be highlighting school leadership teams, which are really an important component of our schools, how we work with administration and work with the teachers in our buildings. School leadership teams also are a critical component of 90-day plans. So on October 2nd, we had a school leadership team event where they came together and did some professional learning, and then were able to collaborate together to work on 90-day plans. One part I really would like to highlight about that day is part of what they worked on with the consultant is SMART goals. So they looked at a variety of SMART goals from our own plans and from other school districts, and then kind of analyzed those and said, are these really SMART goals? How could they be improved? And then they were able to go back and work on their 90-day plans and improve their SMART goals in their plans. So we're excited about the work that they do, but it was a great day. We love having them come together. There's a lot of energy, and just really want to celebrate that work and express appreciation for everyone who chooses to be a member of that team as they, are attending an all-day training and collaborative meeting. They are writing sub-plans and doing all of that. So we appreciate that they're willing to be a part of that leadership in their buildings and distribute that leadership.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move to our discussion items. And our first one is the Utah State Monument Valley lease. And Christian, are you online with us?
Yeah, hi.
Okay.
Sorry,
Take the floor.
sorry I'm not there in person. I'm over in Cedar City today supporting the state golf, so.
State golf.
Yeah, with all the boys are at state golf yesterday and today, so.
Awesome. Okay. All right, we'll let you take the floor.
Well, good. Maybe it would be a good place for us to start is just quick introductions, and then we can turn it over to the board on the questions they have and be able to respond to them. First of all, let me thank you all for asking some really good questions, and I think we have the experts in the room today to be able to respond to those questions that were posed. And as you know, we're excited about this project and sure appreciate the board and Monument Valley High School and all the folks down there that have helped this dream become a reality, and it's going to be a great thing for the area down there. Maybe what we could do start with is have just on the order on my screen is Joseph, introduce yourself, Dave, yourself, Chris, yourself, and then Kyle, if you could introduce yourself, and then we can go from there.
You're on mute, Joseph. Thank you. Yeah, Joseph Jenkins. I'm the Director of Real Property here at Utah State University.
And I'm Dave Cowley. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for USU.
And I'm Chris Nelson. I work for Dave on new market tax credits in this capacity.
Hey everyone, this is Kyle. I'm counsel to USU and Aggie Sandstone Foundation on this New Markets project.
Well, good. Where should we begin? I know there was a lot of questions in the last meeting that we didn't have the experts in the room. Where do you feel would be the best place to start?
I think one thing, having looked at your material, you spelled a lot of things out. So maybe if you want to offer any clarification to anything, and then I'm sure we'll piggyback on that with questions. Especially your diagram. Do you know how you had the flow chart? Maybe you could kind of walk through that a little bit, and that would help with that. So we
Chris, do you want to talk through that?
Yeah, let me first get back to the diagram. I'm sorry I didn't have that pulled up really quick when I got here.
That's okay.
I was in a different meeting with other things going on, so let me get first to the document.
For the board, I think it's our third one over, wasn't it?
It's either that or if you folks had it on your screen and you wanted to pull it up, that's always a possibility as well.
The authorization to organize.
Yeah, I think it's your authorization one to organize, yes.
Just trying to get my cursor to move where my finger is moving.
That's all right.
It's not getting there quickly for some reason. I apologize.
Let me forward you the email that we sent to, maybe it'll pop up on your email, Chris, really quickly, because I've
Open
got
it.
that up.
Yeah, it would probably pop up quicker than mine will.
Do you know what? It's like this?
Yes, it is that.
It's under authorization.
It's
It's
under
the
public
first-
content, the authorization. to
First
organize.
document on the bottom page. Yes.
Yeah.
It's passed.
Okay, Chris, I just sent that email to you, so hopefully it'll pop up and then it'll be on the bottom.
To page
Okay.
3.
Yep. Just trying to get it to open really quick.
There it is.
Oh my goodness. I've got it. Okay. So if you've got it open on your screen, so you want to talk about just the diagram in and of itself.
I think if you talk about the flow of where the money comes through, and that, because that was a lot of the questions, was the Sandstone Foundation, and so maybe if you want to speak to the diagram, that might clarify.
Okay, more than happy to do that. So, the way that this program works, in essence, and the best way of trying to describe it, really does come down to the idea that underneath, how do I want to say this? Let me start from a different standpoint, maybe. The United States government, underneath the auspice of the Internal Revenue Service, has organized a process whereby investors can give money with projects, mostly can be, nonprofit projects and things of that nature, where they go into communities that are underserved, poverty levels, and various things of that nature. And by combining business with the Internal Revenue Service, they can give funds to organizations to develop certain processes or to develop resources. So in this particular case, in a census tract, which goes all across the United States, they have various census tracts, they recognize that this area is underserved and typically also has higher poverty levels and various things of that nature. And Utah State University is desirous of putting an educational facility in that location, which would qualify underneath the new market tax credits. In addition to that, you could have medical pieces that would go into place, manufacturing pieces. There are various other types of entities that would qualify. But in this particular case, Utah State University is interested in trying to put this facility in the Monument Valley. And we have the state who's put in money, we have private investors who've put in money, but we have a gap. And that gap can be filled by these new market tax credits. And in this particular case, one of the entities that are helping us is Wells Fargo, and they are an investor. And what this entity is doing is they're putting in money to help us close the gap for our funding request or our funding needs to build the building. Now, you had asked a question, which would be, well, what's in it to them? What's in it for them? And the long and the short of it is they put the money in, and I'm going to use an example of, say, $4 million. They put in $4 million of money, and it combines with ours, and then over a 7-year period, Wells Fargo will receive tax credits that may equal to, say, $5.2 million in tax credits. So that's where they get part of their return from, if that makes sense to you. And so the way this gets structured is Utah State University, because it's collected money, and the private sector, because it has an investment they want to put together, they bring both of these into an investment fund. And that investment fund then gives the value, in this case it's about $14 million, to a community development entity. And it's through some legal transactions that it goes into this community development entity. And the community development entity is the one who has the relationships with the Internal Revenue Service. And so they are the ones who then say, okay, great, you're putting in this $14 million investment, and then we're going to issue the tax credits back to, in this particular case, it would be Wells Fargo. And Utah State University is just putting the money in that they had. Then the Community Development Fund, it loans the money to the foundation that we have created as Aggie Sandstone Foundation. And then we, Utah State University, as with all buildings built by the state of Utah, we work with the Division of Construction and Facility Management, DFCM, to build a state building underneath Aggie Sandstone. And the money flows back and forth between Aggie Sandstone and Utah State University DFCM to pay for the building. And so in the end of the process, what happens is Aggie Sandstone Foundation owns the building, and Utah State University, as the sole leaser or leasee of the building, we then use that facility for our educational purposes. And Aggie Sandstone Foundation has one sole purpose, and that is to support Utah State University and its educational needs, and particularly to build a building and lease it to the university. And so that's how basically the money flows back and forth between this process. Is we're working through that process. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so that in essence is what is happening in this whole menagerie of monies and things that are moving back and forth.
Yeah, that does. So,
Can I ask a
We have
clarifying
some-
question?
yes, we have some questions now. So we'll just open up to the board, and then whichever one of you wants to speak out and answer that, if that
Okay,
helps.
so I think I understand that all the money is coming from Wells Fargo to close the gap. And does Wells Fargo, do they pay for that upfront as needed to finish the building quickly? You mentioned over the next 7 years, then they'll get the tax credit. And so,
Yeah, so the way this all works, and just so that you know, Utah State University, and in Dave's capacity, we never start a building unless we have all the funds available to build the building. That's just one of the principles that we do. We can't do it any other way. And so all of the money that the university has collected, coupled with the money from the Wells Fargo investment, bring us up to the total that we need to have in order to construct the building.
okay.
And that's how the investment is created. And so the money is already, as soon as you folks sign the documents that we need, then we can close on the deal. But once all these documents are signed, then we close and all that money starts to flow through the process. And we create the investment funds, we pull all the money together, and then we can start paying for the building underneath Aggie Sandstone Foundation.
Okay, and another question. So Utah State isn't an entity that can facilitate it and take the money? Is that against the law for Utah State to take the money directly instead of the foundation?
So, well, it's a good question. The structuring of the way to make all of these things work is really worked out by many of the legal and accounting teams that are associated with it, and I'll let Kyle try to address that specific question.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So, as I'm sure you're appreciative of, folks on the board, there are a lot of, and as part of the structure, you've probably seen the structure chart. It looks like modern art, so I appreciate the questions as well. In order for what we'll call a project borrower to qualify for New Markets loans, there's a whole litany of things under the tax code that it needs to satisfy. And so oftentimes in New Markets transactions, we'll just create special purpose entities for that individual purpose. There are ways around it, but it's just simplest to create nonprofit supporting organizations of USU, for example, that can qualify for those loans.
Okay. I don't know if we're to this point yet, but the biggest question I had last time is exactly where does the money come from? And you've answered that, Wells Fargo, to complete the project. And is there a lien placed on our property for this loan and with the leases? Because I don't understand everything that's in those agreements, but is there a lien placed?
Yeah. So the best way to try and explain that would be not really liens. As you probably know, that in state statute, there are not mechanic liens or liens that are placed against state projects or buildings. That's one of the state statutes that we have. You may or may not have known that. So I think your question is really focused on the worry that what if the project doesn't finish, or how does this affect the funding, or what is the effect on that? Is that really what the question is trying to get to?
It is, yes.
Yeah. So the real answer to your question is that because the Utah State University and because Wells Fargo have combined these funds together, the total value of that project is already, if you will, in the bank. And we've gone out to contractors, we've got guaranteed price maximums, and so maximum price, excuse me. So we've got all those things calculated into the process. Now, as you possibly know, we go through projects and sometimes there are unforeseen things that come up, and so we have contingencies that are out there. But if there was a small thing that needed to be taken care of, $100,000 or $200,000, and Utah State University is committed to this project, and so we would put together the rest of the funds needed to complete the building. And that commitment is made to DFCM, which is the state organization that constructs the buildings, and they build it according to the state standards. So those standards are much higher than what a general contractor building a house or something like that might do. They build to a standard of maybe 20 or 30 years, but the state builds according to a 50 or more year standard. So that's how that would flow a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Also, so are there dedicated funds right now with Utah State University, or would?
Absolutely, yeah.
To right now, okay, all right.
Yeah, everything is fully funded except for the New Market tax credit piece.
I'm saying, in the event that it wasn't finished, as you brought up, then Utah State University would complete the project. That the dedicated funds are not on the front end. I'm just asking about the back end of that. But is that the answer? Is yes, there are. They're already in place.
The dedicated funds are already in place.
For the back end, if it wasn't finished?
I can answer that one. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Again, as Chris said, since since we go all the way to the point of having guaranteed maximum price from the contractor, it dramatically reduces the risk of unforeseen kinds of costs. So we're doing that intentionally to make sure that there aren't unforeseen costs that would exceed the amount of contingency available. But as a university, if that was ever to happen, we have sufficient funds to deal with any kind of unforeseen costs that actually push the project past its original budget, and those are absolutely in place.
Okay, well, those explanations answer a lot for me, and this is a project that I'm excited about and I believe in because I think it's really beneficial to students everywhere, including Monument Valley, but everywhere students can benefit from this type of an opportunity to get higher education, and so I think it's a phenomenal thing that will, this building, this opportunity is just a dream come true, really, for the area. So, thank you. I don't know if I have any more questions, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Nelson, did you have any questions? Is he on? I never have a voice. That is his area.
I'm here.
Do you have any
No,
questions?
No, I don't really have a specific question, but I do want to thank you, the folks that are Zooming and explaining that very detailed. And I, for one, is as excited for our community to have Utah State University on our front yard as well. So it is, like Mary said, very, very beneficial for our local community members. And this is a long time idea that I was hoping for it to happen, and it is coming. So once again, thank you very much.
Okay, I don't think there's any more questions from the board, but thank you for being with us and clarifying. We appreciate it. And we have this as a possible action item further down on our agenda later this evening, so we appreciate it.
Is it okay if I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
It is absolutely understandable, all of the questions that you have, and, and what if is really a great thing to ask, and what if Utah State University doesn't complete this project, and so on. As understandable as that is to have those questions from you, and this will make sense to you pretty quickly, since DFCM is the state entity that actually builds facilities, they also require absolute guarantees and surety from the university before they will embark on a project like this as well. Any kind of project, NMTC related or not. And since that private investor, in this case Wells Fargo, literally has to walk away, if you will, from the $4 million that they put in, because they're going to recover more than that over the 7-year period of time in their tax credits. That's one reason why there are many attorneys involved in a transaction like this, because for Wells Fargo, it all depends on whether USU delivers exactly what we say we're going to do here and so on. So you have really good company, I guess, is what I'm trying to convey to you, that not only is that a great question for you, it's absolutely the same kind of question that DFCM has, and make sure that there's no way for us to essentially falter on this, and it's exactly the same question that Wells Fargo has, and all of the legal documents make sure that we're going to deliver. So not only is it a project that we want for our own mission as an educational institution, but you have really good company in making sure that all things are in place to resolve any kind of contingencies and make sure this project actually happens as planned. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
And to add to what Dave has said, I'd just say this, which is part of the reason why you have the documents there for your approvals today, is because the various attorneys are saying, we need to ensure that all of this is laid out completely so that They know all I'll call it the counterbalances to everything, so that it's going to be done legally, that there's no loophole for anybody to escape if there was. I mean, that's just in essence what they're trying to do. Now, let me tell you, at the end of this, 7 years goes by, and Wells Fargo has now received all the benefit for their investment. At the end of that 7-year period, Utah State University then holds the entirety of the loan. At the beginning, when we talked about that investment, Utah State University then holds the entirety of that loan. And what we end up doing is we end up undoing the foundation and absorbing that into the university as part of our university assets. That's what happens at the end of the 7 years.
Okay. So, yeah, just to clarify then, I thought I read somewhere that Aggie Sandstone was created for this project, but we were told it was created for the project in Grand County, and so,
Now, so there's two entities that we've created.
okay.
Aggie Sandstone is this one. Aggie Red Rock is Moab.
Oh, okay, so this is new for this? Okay.
Yes.
And then it'll turn it back over to Utah State. Okay. You guys have been great in answering these questions. We appreciate your patience with us.
I have one more question.
Just to understand it. Thanks.
Nelson, go ahead, and then Colleen has a question.
So Chris, you mentioned the absorption. Which specifically, which campus does it absorb to? You got campuses throughout the state. Does it come back specifically to the Monument Valley campus or Blanding campus or elsewhere?
Yeah, so when I say it's absorbed, what I'm talking about is university as a whole. And Nelson, I think your question is great. Utah State University is the land-grant university of the state. And so our responsibility is to educate rural America. The Monument Valley is part of the overall, right now, is part of the overall statewide campus unit of the university. And Blanding is the entity that oversees all the things related to Blanding and Monument Valley and Montezuma Creek and all the other places that are out there. And so it's not going to change. Nothing changes. It's just moving the legal entity from Aggie Sandstone to Utah State University. That's all that it does, is just move that legal entity.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Hi, mine was more of a comment than anything. Thank you for following up with us with this presentation. My only thing would be more of a chase set. If we had this presentation to begin, I think that would have cleared up a lot of our questions and having you coming back a second time. So I would just recommend maybe for future references, a presentation like this and with the transparency, that would definitely be greatly appreciated. And I just want to say thank you for your diligence in that as well.
Thanks for the feedback. Hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Right, so
Maybe it'll be somewhere else in the state, but hopefully we'll do it again soon.
just keep your diagram. So, thank you very much. I think that's it, and we appreciate you being with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Anything else, Christian? We good?
No, thanks all, everybody, and it's nice to have the experts in the room, so that really understand this complicated process, and
Okay.
sure appreciate all the good questions and the board and the commitment that you all have to education in the area. We really enjoy working with you, so.
Enjoy the warm weather.
Yes. Good luck to those kids over there golfing.
Yeah.
You tell 'em.
Yeah. Go Broncos, right?
Yes.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
all right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move to our spend plans. So Mrs. Grover, if you'll come up and speak to us about the FBLA ones. Oh, you've got like a couple in a row, so you can start with the first one and then EMS.
All right.
Continue with that one.
So a couple years ago, FBLA started having their testing events done.
Is your mic on? Hold on. Sorry. Okay.
No, it's-
All right, thanks.
A couple years ago, FBLA, the state office, started having some of their testing events done virtually, and the students tested at their home sites instead of traveling to region and state to take those tests. And so that has diminished the amount of participants who travel to region competitions. And the overall effect of that, this last year, they realized has really made it so that the Eastern region does not have very many participants traveling to region. So they are going to dissolve the Eastern region and absorb it into some other regions. And so they are asking our district FBLA chapters to start attending the Central region competition, which is held at UVU. And so when these spend plans were created, we didn't have that information, and so we just needed to adjust that region participation fee, and there will probably be an additional hotel night to just to get them up there in time. Because they used to leave really early in the morning to get to Price. That's where it had been held previously, but now they'll have a little bit farther to go. So they may need another meal, and they may need another night in a hotel. So that is what both of these are for.
Any questions on the spend plans? All right, this is a first viewing. They'll be on again next month, so. Okay, you can go to the EMS one.
So the EMS one, we're super excited. We have 8 students signed up to do some EMS internships as part of our work-based learning and CTE programs. Mac McDonald was very proactive and got this to the commissioners before we even had a conversation with him. And so there's been a couple little changes, but he did get this to the commission, all the county commissioners to approve having our EMS interns participate with county EMS. And so now we are bringing it to you for your approval as well.
Does anyone have questions regarding that agreement? So when they're done, they're fully certified, correct? Those students? The
That,
EMS?
not, when they are finished with our pathway, they
Uh-huh.
will be prepared to take the certification test and become certified. The internship does not automatically
Okay.
qualify for that, but is a big part of that and helps them get all the hours necessary to become certified.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
So they'll be like first responders or intermediate, or how would that, with the, once they pass the certification? Well,
First level EMT.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Question.
Yes,
Yeah.
Nelson.
Are all those certification requirements acceptable with Navajo Nation or UNHS?
That is a really good question. I know that we've worked really hard, and our health science teacher who's teaching these courses within our district has done everything to make sure that they meet all the Utah qualifications. But that is honestly something I don't have the answer to, but I will find out. I don't know if Navajo Nation's requirements are different.
Yeah, please look into that. We don't want our students to go through these programs and not be able to utilize them on Utah Navajo Reservation or with UNHS.
For sure, and UNHS has been very agreeable and very involved in this process, and our instructor has had a lot of conversations with UNH representatives to make sure that, I know for sure Whitehorse, they had some volunteers that were willing to go in, and Monument Valley, they were getting some that they could go in. Navajo Mountain, we haven't found those volunteers from UNHS yet, but they're still working on that one, but.
So this is offered at San Juan, but is it offered
So
to the other schools as well?
Yes, it's a brand-new program this year. We're really excited to be able to
Okay.
offer. It's been many, many years that we've been working on it. But Natea Swenson is the instructor, and she is broadcasting from San Juan High to the other schools, so it's available district-wide.
Natea Giddings.
Oh, yes, did I say Swenson? Yes, she's, man, you're right. She's
know.
one of my girls. She's always gonna be a Swenson, yeah. Sorry,
Hey, Steve has
Natea.
a question for you, so.
There was a couple of things crossed out in that agreement, and when I first looked at it, I thought, that's what we were zeroing in on for the changes, and I was trying to read what was crossed out. Is that what just the county had wanted before they signed the agreement?
So initially, there had been discussion that to have our internship students have access to their paging system and some unnecessary on-call access that I don't think it is the level that we need to be at. So we've come up with some alternate plans for our students to be on call and to be notified when a call comes and they can go for a ride along. And so we have alternate means of communicating with students rather than paying for the subscription that the county pays for and having our students have pagers. So, and we visited with Mac McDonald, and he, instead of wanting to take, he was not a real fan of taking this all back to the commission and starting over. So we said, please just cross those out and then we'll initial it and keep moving on instead of starting all over.
Okay,
So-
thanks.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. So, oh yes, Mrs. Holt, will you do our annual training for our trust land?
Good afternoon. Erin, I'm going to have you click on several links. Okay. Would you be okay to do that? All right. So this is our opportunity to receive our annual school board training for School Land Trust, one of the most fun trainings that you get all year. So I did link the document in there that I've just provided that has all of the links and that have really just come from the website. So I'm going to take you to the website today. I don't know how familiar you are or that you've used the website. There's a lot of resources there, a lot that you can grab from and learn from. But this document will also give you an overview of the things that you need to know. So let's go ahead and click on that website at the very top, Erin. This takes us to the School Trust Land website, and they have really done a lot of revamping over the last year, and it's much, much better, much easier, many more resources added, updated guidance for councils, for principals, for boards. So the place that you would want to go is that training link right there on the left, Erin, about halfway down. Training, yep. And then come to, click on School and Charter over on the right-hand side. And then this will give you some sample plans for sort of an elementary, a middle school, and a high school sample plan. And then if you click over on the district school boards, this gives you an overview of some training, and also most of these are videos that can walk you through roles and responsibilities, the overview of the trust system, where does the money come from, how is it generated every year, and we have increased plus 20,000 this year. So last year we were at 608,950.66, and this year we're at 629,317. So we are very grateful for the funds that come through the School Land Trust and the opportunities that it gives our schools to have the autonomy to write plans focused on academic needs. In addition, in the secondary schools, they can do college and career awareness as well as school counseling or things of that nature for graduation rates. So it gives a lot of freedom, but also funding that we wouldn't otherwise have. And so we're very appreciative of that. I've included several things on here that I won't pull up, like the policy, you've got that. But one thing I want you to be aware of is this year is a year for San Juan School District to be in a compliance review for the state. That districts, that rolls around to districts, they're all over a certain period of time in a compliance review. This is our year for a compliance review. So it's very important that we do the things that we are supposed to be doing. We have our things posted on the website. Our plans are drafted and reviewed in line with the guidance. And of course, that's one of the biggest roles of the board is to review those and approve those each year. So one of the things that came back as feedback from the compliance review for the previous year was rules and order and our council memberships. The council memberships must align in the rules of order with our council memberships that we have to submit online. Those need to be in line with the guidance. So for high schools, it is 10. They should have 10 total on their council. They can't have more, but at least 10. 6 of those need to be parents, and 4 need to be employee, including the principal. And then for all other schools, including middle schools, it's 6 and 4, including the principal. So that's something that they're really trying to clean up. That's something that they're monitoring for, and that they gave us kind of a heads up that they're watching closely this year. With that in mind, We have done the training for all of the principals. That happened on September 19th during principals meeting. We did share a template that the state has put together for rules of order that have all of the parts and pieces that are necessary, including the updated council membership. So we are monitoring for that. We asked those to be due October 1st. They're due to the state October 20th. But we're reviewing that at the LEA level now to make sure that those things are in compliance. The only thing really that's new this year through legislation was in the allowable and unallowable expenditures piece, which was that personal property, storage for personal property could not be purchased. So that is not an allowable expenditure for students, which makes sense. When you think about academic goals, there really probably shouldn't be a need for that, but all of those things come from it happened somewhere, so now it's on the unallowable expenditure list. So one of the most important reasons that we do this training as well today is for you to have the letter. So the things I've highlighted in blue are kind of the things we're pulling up. It's the board's responsibility to set the final report date and the date that the plans will be due. These dates were suggested in our principals meeting. We told them it was pending on board approval that we bring this to you today. So we would like to propose that February 3rd be the date for final reports. That's when we bring the long report to you that has what their goals, if they've met them, and if our expenditures are in line. And that would, the state makes our final report available online around the 15th. So they would have about 15 days to get that ready. And then we would bring it to you for the February board meeting. March 28th would be our proposal date for the upcoming school plans that would get it to you in April so that we could make any changes that need to be made by May and get that back and funded by July. So that is on the list for an action item tonight as well. Those dates, the October 20th, the dates that we set tonight for the board, and then May 15th is the final date for the plans to be submitted to the state for funding in July. So those are a really important piece of today's training. School safety and digital citizenship are also, and the TSSA plan are also still a part of the school land trust requirements. And we're also asking the principals link their 90-day plans, their school improvement plans, because so much of the work in school community council revolves around that school improvement plan, so the TSSA plan and the 90-day plan as well. I've also linked at the very bottom the training that we provided for the principals. You can see many of the things are similar that you're seeing, but very tailored to councils, council membership, council design, running a council, elections for a council, tailored really to the school level. Do you have any questions?
Actually, I know that a lot of times they have a hard time getting enough parents to fill those board seats because they're volunteer, but so what if you don't get 6?
So the state, depending on the size of the school, potentially will make an adjustment. They're really pushing us to try.
Sure.
And we are. I think we might have one school that, LaSalle was able to get theirs.
Oh.
So, but I do know that, with the remoteness of Navajo Mountain, and it's really a challenge.
Sure.
So they can make an adjustment based on the area and the size.
So if, let's say, you can only get 4 parents, do you adjust your teacher ratio
Yes,
also?
you have to have 2 more parents always on the council.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
matter, yeah.
Any questions?
A comment and a question. I'm always surprised with parents that I find out they have, or who have several children in school, so they've been a parent for a while of school children, and they've never even heard of school community councils and that there is a council. I'm just wondering what we can do within our schools to promote that better or some people say, well, I've heard that, but I've never known what it is. Or some people say, I've never heard it. And I'm guessing they've heard it, and there's so much information when they register that that's the least of their worries unless they're really honed in on it already. And so I know that's out there all the time, community council, but if it already means nothing to them, then it's just the words on, the report or the the agenda saying that there's going to be one, they're like, I've never known what that is. So, I mean, I hear that from people, and I'm shocked by it, but that's what they tell me.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that, that comment, Mary. I think that we can always, think of other ways that we can get the messaging out. And I think, we have a link on our websites, but, you can promote it in your newsletters. You can promote it, teachers can promote it. This is a great way to get involved. Parents, if you want to be involved, if you want to know what's going on, if you want to be a part of decision-making, if you want to be a part of, looking at budgets and making plans to support our students, this is a great way to do it. And I think, putting it on your marquee, there's a lot of things that could,
and maybe,
messaging that could happen.
Maybe this school has this much money. What do you think we ought to, and well, you'd get some opinions and say, well, then do you want to be on the school community council? I mean, I don't know, lots of things, but people don't fully understand it. And of course, those who've served understand it really well, but we have too many who just don't know. They're too busy to care is the truth, but they might care if they understood it better. So, I don't know, cart before the horse.
I had a comment. I have two students in two different schools, and the problem that I've had with that is they're scheduled on the same date. And then also another problem that I've also had is, one, there wasn't enough advertisement for when the time was going to be changed or the location. Well, not so much the location, more or less a time. So on the calendar, it'll say it's on this date, but when I go there, the door's locked and there's no meeting. And so that would be just my own personal thing. I mean, maybe we can schedule a day where everybody's a different day of the week, or I know something that would be helpful. And so I always miss one. And, so high school would be the one that's like really adamant of my attendance, but I'm unfortunately missing my elementary. So that's kind of the problem I've had myself personally. And then my question for the letter here, February and the March, and those are enough times to get the reports in, or that will be okay
That's
for the...
similar to what we've done for several years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's do our two policies before we get to reports. Okay, this is our admission one, 6120.
Okay, so this is the third reading. So after last reading, Mary had us go look at the expulsion, so that's why it's a third reading. And looking at that had us look at the rest of the policy. So it was a good thing it's a third reading, so we were able to clean up some other things on there. So you'll notice there are some new changes as well. So we had some changes to the immunization section. Do you mind pulling that up, Aaron? Yes. So there's a little wording in the first paragraph changed. And then we changed the immunization section quite a bit just to match what is really in code. It had changed from when this policy was first written, and then there was the change in the expulsion to match, probably Mary's question. This is not even on, to match Mary's question about accepting a student that has been expelled from another district. So a student can be denied admission if they have been expelled from another school district during the preceding 12 months. So those are the new changes in addition to the changes we'd already had made for kindergarten.
Any questions on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, let's move to our next one then, the district employment.
Yes, and this one is a second reading. It's the substitutes, and this is just minor changes to wording. There's not any big changes on the substitutes.
From last time, correct?
There's no changes from
Okay.
last time at all.
All right. Okay, any questions on this one? No. All right.
Just thank you for
Yeah, no, I
Due
said that, so I'm
diligence.
glad she pointed that out, because we were able to clean the policy up as a whole instead of focusing just on the kindergarten.
Thank
So,
you for
yeah,
your
thank
work.
you.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thanks, Laura. All right, let's jump down to our out-of-state transfer for a few minutes. We've got about 10 minutes.
So we have one student on here for out-of-state transfer. It's a student at Spenada Sky Elementary. This is a student who is closer to our school than the schools in Kanta, so just requesting to be able to attend TES because of that distance and the bus distance.
They had been attending though, correct? Or never?
They currently are attending this year pending tuition waiver from the board. And just so you know, we did update the forms with we found a number of things that needed to be tweaked a little bit. So we have new forms ready to go, and we are doing training on Monday with our training for secretaries on Monday, so we'll provide the new forms for them at that time.
Any questions on this out-of-state?
And you just said that she was at Kanta, but now currently at Spenada Sky?
Yeah, so she
Okay.
has started school at Spenada Sky.
Okay, thank you.
Does she have any family that work there, or she's just closer?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's mainly due to the distance that she's having to travel and how early in the morning. And this is a younger student, so
Sure.
thinking about that time
It's
on the
what, like
bus.
6,
Yeah.
Yeah. And are all students, including kindergarten, they're included in our federal impact aid?
Yes.
Do we have preschool students who are also, or does it start at kindergarten?
We do not.
Okay.
We do not take out-of-state preschool students.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on this? All right. Let me think. We have things that are going to take some time. We really need our board report done. And Barbara is here.
Do you want to jump? Like we could just do like the NAPHIS report. That's quick.
Yeah, let's jump down to that real quick.
That way we still have our discussion
Okay.
time for other items.
How about you jump to number 12? the
Okay,
NAPIS?
I'll do
Yes.
that.
'Cause we're going to get in the middle of that and we'll have to stop it,
That's
so-
what I can understand,
Okay.
what you're thinking there. So just a quick report, Tyrell and I were able to meet with a number of congressional offices. We met with actually not only the education aid, but we were able to meet with Congressman Curtis as well as Congresswoman Malloy and talk about impact aid, but other issues as well. So including broadband coverage in San Juan County, and had quite a few discussions. So that was really nice to be able to get time with them. Often we're meeting with their aides and working with them. We also were able to meet with the aide in Mike Lee's office as well. So I felt like it was a really productive. Election year helps, but it was a very productive meeting, and there is a lot of care and concern for San Juan County in general, not just our school district. So it's always nice to see that and be able to have those one-on-one conversations about our concerns and needs.
That's quick.
Okay. Is capital follow-up very long?
No.
Is it just an update?
Yeah, we could do that.
Let's do
you wanna
that
do that one too?
We'll go to number 9, capital
Okay.
update.
So while Aaron's pulling this up for me, I apologize, it's not on this agenda because I couldn't figure out a great, easy way to attach it on here. This is just a video of some drone footage of the elementary school for its progress. Just wanted to let the board kind of see this footage. And then just real quick, before we play this, just on the Montezuma Creek Elementary, hopefully by next board meeting, we'll have the majority of that project done and can give you an update there. It'll take place the end of this month, the beginning of the next. So we'll have a further update on that one. But Blanding Elementary, knock on wood, that right now everything is on schedule and everything's looking really good. We are scheduled for our first slab pours next week. So if you drive by the site or are there, live right by the site, you'll see some pretty significant changes by the end of next week with some slab pours happening. So Aaron, if you'll play that video and just watch that. There's your kitchen and cafeteria area. South of the hallway down to the gym in the corner there. You can kind of see where they've graded, the parking lots and everything. So it's kind of fun to see the progress, and it looks extremely different than it did 4 months ago. So a lot of progress being made, and we're currently on schedule, and everything has been really positive so far. And obviously there's hiccups that come along the way, but that's just a quick overview, just some of the progress. Thought we'd share that. And we do, Westland does have those, like they do them weekly. So each month I'll try to show you kind of the latest one of those videos, unless you just feel like it's a waste of our board meeting time. But we'll show that just as kind of the most recent progress video that they take on a weekly basis. So.
Could you like email them to those of us that'll be banned out? No longer in attendance.
Yeah, and we'll try to work on a way to maybe get those attached on our public agenda so that anyone online, it just didn't work really well for us. So whether that's just linking to something external, we'll work on that for next month too.
And that may be something we could put on Blanding Elementary's website to keep the community updated with.
We could do something like that.
So possibly.
And our general website that people can access as well.
Okay, that's great. Oh, yes, Steve.
Are you aware of a time-lapse video going on?
That'd be
No.
cool.
That would be cool.
Just wondering.
Hey,
Is
he's not
there
gonna
one,
be on
or-
the, board.
He
He's
could
got some
start it
time.
now.
He could start doing it.
Could start it now. If,
The camera from, but.
Well, you just compile them all. You'll be fine.
No, but we could.
A lot of editing.
that would be cool.
That would be, I mean, we have some of this drone footage from each week, but a time-lapse video would be awesome. I'll visit with our team about the potential for that.
Not a big deal.
It'd be fun.
But it would be fun to watch, that's for sure.
That's true, so, okay. All right, we're gonna start with, don't get too comfortable back there, Barbara. Are you ready? Okay, we'll have you come up to the front then. Give us a second, we'll pull it up. Yep, you got it. What we'll have you do is, if you don't mind speaking to your goals, and then we'll talk about your celebrations and your challenges. Does that work?
Sure, can do that. Okay, so, hey everyone, it's good for me to be here and for this opportunity to share the great things that are going on at Bluff Elementary School. And there are great things going on. And we still have a very lovely school. It is beautiful. And so, as far as our goals, these are our goals for this year, but the progress and things I'll talk about that occurred from last year's data to up to the beginning of the year as well. I like to make a comparison there as far as our growth and the sustainability that we've had. So, and those are our celebrations. But as far as our goals for this year, we wanted to continue to focus on writing, and we did so last year as well. And it's writing is still a struggle for the majority of our students, and so we wanted to focus on that and ensure that our kids are able to get, have the use of the appropriate conventions in the writing, and then also the content, to be able to increase the content of writing. So those are our goals, and we've set a lot of action steps to that to help meet those, and our goals are all posted in our conference room, and so we consistently refer to that. Part of our PLC meetings we consistently talk about our goals and the data that we do bring together, like for the writing, we bring writing samples, and we bring our on-demand writing assessments, and within the new curriculum too, the teachers are learning how to teach writing as well with the new curriculum. And so that's one of our goals. And the other is just that, 70% of our students in each grade will reach their pathway to progress goal. And the district goal is 65%, but we wanted to set it for 70% because we know that that's attainable. And we know it's attainable because our students from last year, what they scored at the end of the year to what they're scoring at the beginning of the year, there's not a lot of decrease in that. I mean, the gap is closing And so we're really excited about that. And so we wanted to set it for 70%. And then also, our other goal is just attendance. And I think attendance will be our goal forever. Just because we want the students there. The teachers are eager to teach, and the teachers are there primarily almost every day, and they're ready to teach and share, provide learning opportunities for our students. But unfortunately, yeah, we do have an attendance issue, and so those are the things that we try to tackle primarily every year. But for the last 2 years we've been doing this. However, every year we do increase that. We do different things, and there are different strategies or different ways of approaching, different ways of working with parents, and different things that we do every year for that. So those are our goals for this year. As far as our progress that we've made, this is really exciting, and I'm eager to talk about this. One is that, we were designated a TSI school last year. And so we got off of that. For the last couple of years, actually, and we got off of that. And we got off of that, basically, the designation we had for that was economically disadvantaged students and American Indian students. And those were they looked at our data for that, and that's why we're a TSI school. And as far as the data there, if you look at that RISE ELA data, our progress there in reading has been pretty significant as far as with RISE. And I put the data there from 22 to 23, and for this last 23 to 24. And if you see, from going in third grade from an 8.3% to 33%, that's pretty significant as far as the growth, as far as from what we see. And that's looking at students that have made a 3 or a 4 on RISE, and RISE is pretty rigorous as far as the assessment itself. And then in fourth grade, 11% to 38%, and 0% to 33%. And so we feel like those are pretty significant as far as in the area of RISE. And in the area of Acadience, if we look at that data, that's a huge progress as well as far as students reaching at or above typical progress. And if you look at first grade, it was 64%, second grade 85%, third grade 100%, fourth grade 85%, fifth grade 100%, kindergarten 44%. And this was last year, and that was, we lost our kindergarten teacher last year due to cancer in December. And so that was a little bit of a challenge right there to work with that particular grade level and to make the adjustments needed there. However, though, this group of students did do very well this school year. And if you see the progress there, that's another celebration right there, is as far as our students, how they did. Let me go back to that data right here. As far as how they did from year to year. So that's under our celebrations, is that as far as kindergarten students, at the end of May, they were 90% proficient. And the beginning of this year, we assessed them, and we had 80%. And that's pretty significant for our students at Bluff. And then first grade from 35, we kept it at 37 at this beginning of the year. But as far as, some of the drops that are made there, it's not that significant. And we can see that within our small groups students that we assess and how many small groups we have, to be able to pull students out and intensely support them. It is not the entire class anymore. And where it used to be the entire class, we'd have small groups going everywhere. And it feels like some of the small groups we have now really are to engage students in higher learning as well as intensely supporting them. So we're seeing more and more of that as well. And it's just awesome to see that. And our data really indicates that. And so those are our celebrations. And another thing to really celebrate as far as I believe is because of the career that I've had being a principal for 14 years, I've seen teachers come and go all the time. And so now, probably within the last 4 or 5 years, I've had consistent teachers at my school that have stayed. This year, we just hired a new kindergarten teacher, but the rest of them all have stayed for several years now, and you can see a difference. The difference of the continuity in teaching, the continuity of collaboration, the continuity of being able to know how to analyze data and have a vertical PLC group, and every single teacher knowing the standards of all the grades and understanding each other and supporting each other in that way, and then having a couple of lead teachers who really support the teachers where it's needed and support the school in a larger system that way. And then having a lot of systems in place already and knowing what we need to do, and we just easily take off with that at the beginning of every year. So those are huge celebrations as far as seeing that throughout my career. And it's a good place to be in. It's a good spot to be, being at the end of my career, and it's awesome. And I commend my teachers for their dedicated work and for their heart being in the place where it needs to be with their students. Because every year we've done home visits, and they know the importance of that as well, and the importance of connecting with families, and the importance of connecting with the students and their culture. So, like I said, I'm in a very good spot with my staff at Bluff Elementary. Any questions?
Good. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, I guess I do.
Go ahead.
Yesterday, at another meeting, as a board member, I was asked specifically, why are we having such an issue with attendance? And that's not just specifically your schools all the way around. And I said there's a lot of contributing factors to that. Could you attest to what maybe go into a little more detail of what you guys are doing at the elementary to encourage our students to attend?
Sure, I can do that. Well, the one main thing that we try to do really is to strengthen the communication between school and home. So there's a variety of things we do there. And the other part of that really is celebration, being able to celebrate students that do come, and then even the ones that miss, when they come, we celebrate that as well because they are there. And so there's a lot of that going on. And as far as, I'll just talk about the celebration aspect of it first. There's a lot of things we do. We give out certificates every month. We have an assembly. We come together. We celebrate that. And then every week we also celebrate as far as who has the highest percentage of attendance in each class, and that class comes in and they pick a prize, and we celebrate that in the office, and the teacher even gets a favorite drink. And so those are the things that we do as far as celebration. And then also at the assemblies we celebrate, and we also this year have collaborated with the schools in this area, San Juan High and Blanding Elementary and ARL, and came up with a slogan so that we could all use that, attendance matters, every day, all day, every day, we're using that, and that's going to be put on a sweatshirt that the kids can wear. We've, since we're Bluff Eagles, we built a big nest, and, the little kids all drew themselves as little eagles, little eaglets, and we all got on the nest, even the teachers, they got on the nest, and we all need to stay on the nest, in order to, it's important for us to all be together as a team to stay in the nest, and it's really hard to fall off out of the nest. If you're here, then you're not in the nest. So the celebrations like that we do for students, and they get really excited about it. And there was even a parent that shared a story about, she was telling her son that, well, I have a doctor's appointment, so you probably just have to just stay with me and go with me. And the little boy said, no, Mom, because I'm going to fall out of the nest. I cannot. And, and so the kids are eager and they're excited about that and about what we do at school together. So those are the celebrations. But as far as some of the things we do with parents, at the beginning of the year, we had, at the back to school night, we had little centers set up, and we had parents come, and each teacher presented an attendance fact. Here are some facts about attendance. If you miss so many days, then sometimes, you do get behind in your academics. And so there's a lot of things that they shared, and the parents and the students went around to each centers, and we shared that information because we thought it's important to share that information with parents. And we also have a little chart that we go by, and I explain that to parents as far as what occurs, and we also explain to parents the importance of calling in to the office and letting us know if your child is not going to be there, because it's important for that communication not only to happen from school to home, but also from home to school. And we do have an attendance log where we track all the information, and the teachers have access to that as well as the office. So we know what kind of communication is happening from home as well. If there are emails sent, then we put that information there on that attendance log, so teachers know that communication was made from home. And so I just feel like we just really have increased in those areas as well.
Thank you.
Very good. Hey, anything else? Nelson, did you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just have a comment. First of all, I appreciate the celebration that your staff are being commended for, and makes me wonder, I wish those students that are not in attendance could be celebrating with the others as much. You did say that it's a continuing concern, carryover from previous years on low attendance or no attendance. Has anyone identified the specific reasons other than, I know there's a lot of variables, but every month when we get an administrator to come and give us a report on their challenges, very seldom that they come back again the following year and talk about their previous year's challenge and that they had improved and they are now celebrating. Is that possible, Barbara? Is there something that the district can do to try to fix one or two of these issues with attendance?
Yeah, I think it's possible. As far as, I think we've kind of, I think are going in that direction. Last year, we're able to, as a district, as far as administrators and leaders, we had a training that occurred last year to help us really know how to improve attendance. And from that, we're able to make a plan that included different strategies, I felt like. And we're able to also connect with other schools, like Bluff was able to collaborate with the schools here, just because our schools, our students from Bluff do come up to ARL and San Juan High, and our families are mostly the same as well. And so that's why I think if more of us tackle those things together as far as the schools, I think that is a way, and there is a way. I know there is, and I can honestly say that we have improved this year. A lot of our students that were chronically absent last year, and that's been, as far as our goal, that was going to be our focus. They are coming, and that's because I feel like as a school, you set plans with parents, and we did. We set some plans with parents. And so those are the students that, when they come, we celebrate, and we're going to even start celebrating with parents themselves, and they can even get a certificate also for helping in this process. So Nelson, I think it's going to take a lot of effort and energy and time to really put into it. It just can't be a one-year goal and then that's it.
Yeah, I agree, but things are measured by the year, so there's got to be some percent increase. I'm hoping for, you know, for our students to attend school a little bit more often. So thank you for answering that. And one other comment, my condolences to your loss of your teacher. I know the feeling and the school setting when that happens. We've had one previously here at TES, so these are teachers that have been at our schools for some time now. And personally, I've known a lot of these teachers from past years as well too. So my condolences again to your teachers and your staff.
Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and the good work you're doing in your school. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Okay, Shannon, you ready?
Good afternoon. Today I'm here to spotlight assessment. Have my assessment hat on. So the state actually requires, it's a requirement from the state that we assess student achievement. And so in order to help with that and help facilitate that as assessment director, I try and organize and coordinate our state mandated testing. I distribute testing information from Utah State Board of Education. I try and help troubleshoot testing issues, of which there are always a lot. And I make the testing data available to schools and administration. And so that's what I wanted to do today for you guys, is I wanted to give you guys an overview of some of the data at our district level. And I'm trying to keep it simple because I know it's easy to get bogged down in data. So let's start off first with WIDA. Now, I remember doing this presentation last year and somebody asked me what WIDA stood for, and I didn't know, so I put it on the slide this year. It's World-Class Instructional Design and Assessment. And basically what WIDA is our multilingual learners are tested every year to see where they are on their fluency in English. Okay? That's what the WIDA test is given for. Now, if we look at the data, you can see here it ranges from entering to reaching. And most of our students in our district are in stage 3, which is developing. Now, comparing this, and what I've done with our data from this year is I compared it with our data that we had last year from spring of 2024. And when I look at the percentages, when you look at the percentages of our students that are in each of these categories, they are the same exact percentages this year as they were last year. Okay. When you look at the ACT, the next one is the ACT, and that is given to our 11th graders, and that's basically a college admission test that shows their readiness for college. And when we look at the data there, I just want to, like I said, I just want to highlight a couple things. On the left-hand side, we can see San Juan data, and on the right-hand side is the state data as far as averages. And when you look at that 38.6% for San Juan, what that is the percent of students that are scoring 18 or higher composite score on the ACT. Okay? And for this year, in our 2024 data, San Juan has increased by 1.6% of students that are scoring 18 or higher. So we did see an increase there that year compared to last year. Looking at the Utah Aspire Plus, this is a test that's given to our grades 9 and 10, and this is a predictor. It's supposed to predict what their scores will be on the ACT. And if we look at the data there, if we're looking at the average predicted ACT, so we can see, will you go to the next slide? That's okay. The average predicted ACT, we can see in San Juan, again, on the left, is 17.08. And it's interesting to look at the trends because both the state and San Juan average predicted ACT went down almost a point this year. And that's the only test that I'm going to show you that we actually saw a decrease and not increase, but it was statewide. Okay. The next one is RISE, and the RISE assessment is given to grades 3 through 8. Well, overall, the ELA and math tests are given to grades 3 through 8. Science starts at grades 4, so that's 4 through 8, and writing is given to just grades 5 and 8. Okay? And when we look at the data there, if you go to the next slide, Erin. They've broken it down into language arts, math, and science. And looking specifically at our LEA results that are on the right side this time, and looking at our growth, for ELA, and this is actually the percent of students that are proficient. We're looking at the percent of students that are proficient. And for ELA in San Juan, we have increased 1% this year in our students that are proficient. In math, we've increased 2% over what we tested last year. And in science, we've increased 1%. Looking at our grades K through 3, we test them with an Acadience platform, and they are tested in both reading and math. They have benchmark tests that are given at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. The data I'm going to show you is from the end of the year. That's the spring summative window when we do most of our spring summative state testing. So looking at reading first, if you'll go to the data, Erin. So if you look at the reading, we've broken it down K through 3, and we're looking at the percent of our students that are at or above benchmark on composite score. And I've listed the state average. They didn't have nice charts side by side, so I listed the state average at the top, and then I showed you what our district is. And then at the bottom, I show that we've increased. So kindergarten, we have increased 1.7% from 2023. What's exciting when you look at the first grade testing this year, we've increased 15.3% from 2023, which is a huge jump. If you look at the next slide, we look at second grade. At second grade, we've increased 1% from last year. And then in third grade, even though we're a little bit below the state average at San Juan, we have increased 5.1%. That's on the reading. Now, if we go to the next is math, we do the same thing only with math, and we use Acadience. If you want to go ahead and go to the data. So we can see for kindergarten in math, we have increased 5.2%. In first grade, again, that's a great cohort year. They've increased 17%. And then second grade has increased 1.6%, and third grade has increased 1.2%. Okay, I wanted to give a brief overview instead of getting into a bunch of numbers. And if you go to the last slide, I'm giving a district overview. This is our district. If you're interested in the school specific, I try not to go into that so much because I know the schools each have a chance to come up here each month and present their data. But if you were interested in looking at specific school data, I have a link to the school report cards. They were just released, and you can find all the school specific data there. As well as I have a link to the presentation. I did the same presentation last year, have the same types of data, and I have the link there if you're interested in looking at our data from last year. So finally, any questions from you guys?
Yes, question.
Go ahead, Nelson.
Are the numbers in line or current with the recent school report? State school report card?
Yes.
Such as the ACT?
Yes, they should be. I pulled all of the data that I pulled, and I cited it on the slides were from the data gateway. And that's from the USBE data, that's where all the data is pulled. And that's where the school report cards are housed also.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that first grade on both reading and math were higher than the state average. Any theories on what we're doing to the first grade different than the other grades?
The only thing that I thought of, and I will give a little statement in the fact that as assessment director, I try not to interpret the data. I try and provide it, but I think there's a lot of factors in that. But as I was looking at that data, I was thinking, I know they've started some new programs with letters and with a bunch of training for early literacy and early math. And those kindergartners came in, and this is the second year. I'm trying to remember, do you remember when we started letters? Was it 2 years ago? Was it 3? 3 years ago. And so that's the only thing that I could think of off the top of my head is these kindergartners came in, they started with this program, with this new early literacy initiative, and they had a year on that. So that was one of my theories, but like I said, I don't interpret the data, I just provide it.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else? Well, we're glad you get to deal with all those acronyms all day.
Believe me, there's a lot.
I know you always hear the complaint about testing, but how do you understand where you're at if you don't have it? So thank you for what you do.
Can I just add
Yes,
to
go
Steve's
ahead.
question?
Yes.
So there has been a lot of work on early literacy and early math initiatives to the state and then in the district. So Letters is one of those where all of this training that has happened for our K through 3 teachers that's been mandated through the state, I think that's made a huge difference in how they teach early literacy. And then as well as, we've had 2 instructional coaches that we used ESTER funds for. They've continued, one through SJSD funding and the other one through state funding. So I think having those instructional coaches, Anna Hart and Amanda Lincoln, but I know it's a new name. But anyway, they have done a tremendous job to be able to support those schools as well. So I think all of those initiatives, and like Barbara said, the things that are happening at her school are happening at other schools as well, and really being able to retain, when you see that data from the end of the year to the beginning of the next year and students are holding on to it, that's deep learning. It's not just I know it for this 1 minute. So, and I just want to celebrate one other data piece. Monticello Elementary is only one of 2 schools in the entire state of Utah with 70% or more third graders at a 750 Lexile or higher. So that's a huge celebration. So I think we're seeing this across all of our schools, these improvements, but some really great things where we're scoring higher than even other schools throughout the state in a variety of areas. So just wanted to add that.
Just a thought, with the kindergartners and now first graders that increased, can you go back and look at attendance and see if the attendance is higher there as well? Is that, I would assume that's always a piece of it, but when talking about kids that aren't in school, do we have better attendance in that particular time? Kids like to go to school at that age level. Anyway, that was just a thought.
And I can't speak to the attendance. I'm sure we can pull the data, but I can't speak to that. So.
And that was going to be my comment as well. I think the nice increases, our kids are actually in school, as opposed to the higher grades, they had to deal with the pandemic, and that definitely made a difference in where we are leveling out at. So I think we have to give our grace to our students as well. So
Right, the many, in some cases, years that some of the kids missed, then they've got holes in their education and their learning, and as they move up through the grades, sometimes things go right over their head because they miss the basic information they needed when they should have been attending school. So, yeah, good job, Colleen.
you too, Mary.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, we'll go back to our agenda. So, our discussion items. So let's go to the Utah Fits All Scholarship, and I'm going to turn the time over to the superintendent.
Okay, so we're revisiting it this month. We did have a brief conversation in June. So I just want to talk through a few points. If you remember, in the 2023 legislative session, the Universal School Choice Program was signed into law. It went to the legislature and was passed within 10 days. This is taking funding from our general education money for public education and higher ed. So those appropriations that come from our Utah State income tax, it's taking funding from there for this voucher program. Originally, the original legislation passed was for $42.5 million, and then this past legislative session, they raised that to $80 million. So that is funding that is set aside for public education and now is in this voucher program. The reason I want to point that out is it does affect us as a school district when you consider funding going to the voucher program is no longer funding that is available for other needs in public education. So I just want to point that out. And that number could go up over time. So depending on what the legislature chooses to do with that. How the funding works is that it's an $8,000 scholarship that a student can receive through the voucher program. And then what that money is set aside for that student. And then there is a very long list of providers that can be approved to apply that funding to. That's everything from, I mean, you can look on there and see, I don't know if any of you looked at providers, but that could be an online school. It could be a one-person tutoring service. It could be dance lessons. It could be swim lessons. So it gives all these choices for parents to be able to use that funding to be able to educate their child outside of the public system. So when we think about us as a public provider, what they did is they said, you cannot use the voucher money and be enrolled in a public school. So then they decided that a public education entity could now become a vendor just like every other vendor. And it's a really simple process to become a vendor. You put in the application, you get approved, you get set up. That part is very simple, and you can see that in the provider handbook. The challenge for us as a public entity is that there is a lot more on the back end that we have to do. So if you think about the funding going to, say, a private school, they do not have the same accountability, the same mandates, the same audits that we do as a public entity. So if they take on a student, what they have to do as far as any of those regulations are very different than if we take a student on if we become a provider. So let's say we have a student that, say we become a provider, we have a student who says, I'm just going to come in and I'm going to take this one class. And yes, we can set up our fee schedule. Most other districts are charging, $1,000 for a one credit. So let's say the student comes in for one class. So now we have to support that entire program to be able to provide that one class. And that includes programming from our IT department and from Jonathan English, because Aspire, how Aspire, our SIS system is set up, is they cannot be put in our regular system with all of our other students to report to the state, because they are a voucher scholarship student. They are not a public ed student. So we have to set up a whole back-end system for reporting and tracking that student. And then on top of that, we have to make sure that back-end system that's created now has to communicate with all of our other systems. So our emergency management system, which is Navigate Prepared, which we use for all of our emergencies and accounting for students if they're in the building or not in the building during an emergency. Any of our, Canvas, any of those instructional resources we use for students, as well as ThrillShare as well. All of those programs would have to be able to integrate with that back-end Aspire system. However, we're going to load that for the student. And then, even if they're taking one class, all of the mandates that we're required to do for students, whether it's, once every 3 years we do sexual abuse prevention, even though they're there for one class, we're still going to have to manage all of those mandates for that one student. I'm not sure when that would happen or what that would look like. We'd have to figure that out, because oftentimes that's happening during the school day. We set up sessions where somebody comes in and does the training right then, but if they're only there 1 hour, that's going to be very difficult to manage all of those mandates. We can become a approved vendor. I talked to a number of school districts. You can see currently there are 9 school districts throughout the state that have chosen to become, their boards have chosen to become providers. In talking to a number of the superintendents, it was kind of surprising. They thought that they would have more students that would use their services. And I can tell you on the majority of these school districts that they have less than 10 students that are currently using the voucher. And even some of the larger school districts, Washington School District is one of those that has, and Nebo as well, has less than 10 students that are currently participating. And while Iron School Districts allows elementary, they have not had any elementary students that are participating in their program. Canyons is different. They have a lot of dual enrollment students, so they have a number of voucher students that are participating. So kind of wanted to share some of that data. So if we decide that this is an option that we want to provide in our school district, I would just want to tell you some of the steps that would have to occur. So we would have to develop and approve a school board policy. we would have to develop and adopt a fee schedule, which for courses would be pretty simple, but when you're thinking about extracurricular activities, that would become more extensive to determine, depending on the extracurricular activity, what those fees would be. Again, the Aspire programming and linking to other digital programming, including Navigate Prepared. We'd have to determine who is going to administer this program. Of the 9 school districts, the majority of them have an individual that is running this program. Often that's in their student services. Larger districts have many specialists, so it's a little easier for them to assign that to someone who's already working with online schooling or some other thing. In our district, that would be difficult to add one more thing to someone else's plate. And then we would have to ensure some design for all of the mandatory training that's required as soon as we enroll a student in a public school district. So I wanted to share all of that. My recommendation stays the same as it was in June, that I think this is not the time for us to become a Utah fits-all provider, that it would take some time to develop the system. I think the overall cost in resources from our staff would be more than what we would be able to take in charging a fee schedule. So my recommendation stays the same, that we wait and see how this continues, and we could look at it again next year.
Does anyone have any comments?
I'd just say I appreciate the time that you put into this. I feel like we didn't officially decide anything, we just discussed it previously. And I'm not saying we have to officially decide anything now either. I just appreciate that we are making a thoughtful consideration of what we have had people reach out to us wanting this. But I also agree with you that now might not be the time. But I don't want us to completely write it off either. I do want to listen to, we already have people that are willing to work with us, as opposed to just choosing to become a vendor and then not knowing what that would look like. So I know we have an interest in it, and my hope with if we chose to become a vendor, or if we had the fee, for some of the things, that we could get some of these students that don't otherwise come into the schools, and as they start to participate, that we actually increase our enrollment, because I know that there is a trend to where people are moving away from public school, and I think if we can get them back into our public schools, maybe they're going to choose to participate more. I'd like to see that, hopefully. That's one thing I would.
And I think you've highlighted actually a concern that we have seen this year of more parents coming forward wanting a student to opt out of one class hour during the day.
Yeah.
So if that continues, I think if we became a provider, you'd see more and more parents saying, I want my student to participate in guitar lessons, and now I can pay for guitar lessons through this voucher, and I can just take my core classes.
But then they can only take less than 50%.
Right. So
that's a concern as well.
Right. So my concern, and I think this particularly affects ARL. We've worked quite a bit. Principal Palmer has worked quite a bit on navigating this with parents, but my concern specifically for ARL is that I think if we became a provider, you would see more and more of that, and it's very likely that we would lose enough funding to keep the number of teachers, to keep, like, for example, the CTE program going at ARL. So we've talked about this, and out of all the schools, I think that's the school that definitely could have some implications that could affect their staffing based upon if we became a provider.
Yeah, so I guess I would just hope that we don't completely write it off, but I agree with you. I think we need to wait a year and kind of see how it fits. But like I said, I would hope that we would still consider it. It's, let's not decide anything today either way, but be open to it. I know that not everybody's still going to be here next year, but.
No, but so,
Yeah.
my question is, well, I guess maybe I'm stating, but so if someone wanted guitar lessons, they could just use their voucher and go find the guitar teacher and say, here, sign up and be a provider and pay them, or I guess you just, and could use the funds for that. I mean, that to me seems like a more simple way than, is that correct? Is that how I'm
Yes,
seeing that?
so anyone can apply to be a provider. They have to be approved as a provider. You can see the provider handbook. And if you look at the list of providers, there is a large range of opportunities for students to be able to do that. So yes, so if someone is receiving this scholarship in our community and say they wanted some type of music lesson, that, that person could become a provider as long as they meet the criteria and put in the application, and then they could pay them for whatever their fee schedule is out of that $8,000 scholarship.
Yeah, so how do you ever, I don't understand how you'd ever implement elementary school.
It would be challenging.
It's not like they have a class for 80
Right.
minutes and then another class and another class, so I don't even understand how you would implement that in an elementary setting.
And I think that's why you see the 9 school districts that have chosen to participate, and a number of them are very large school districts that they are choosing to do secondary. It's an easier way to say, this is the credit hour, this is when we have this in our schedule, this is what the credit is that you'll get for it, you're paying for this credit. I'm not sure how you would determine, it'd be more difficult to determine what is a credit in elementary school when, we do cross-curricular instruction. That would look different.
So outside of the Utah Fits All Scholarship, if we have homeschool students that still choose to participate in extracurriculars, we already have that in place. That wouldn't change.
Yes,
Is that
and even
correct?
and even considering dual enrollment. So if you have a student who is not receiving the voucher who would like to say come in and take heritage language class, they can still do that through a dual enrollment plan. There's no charges for that because we are getting that money from the public education dollars that we get for students. So that average daily membership would factor. So if they wanted to come in and just take, an AP class, or if they wanted to come in and take, math and language arts in elementary, we could work with them to say this is, potentially a block of time that they could participate in those activities, but there's no charge for that. But it's still, elementary is a lot more challenging to do that in, even in that sense, because you're going to have to say, this is the set time we're doing this very specific thing. And we also, so that's dual enrollment. So that we're required to take those students. The other piece of this, and a lot of the school districts have this in their Utah Fits All guidelines, is if the class size is too large, they're not going to accept them as a scholarship student either. So if we have a large class size, we can deny that student from participating in that particular course.
And that seems to be kind of our issue because we're having drop enrollment as well as we're having, we're always, fluid motion to some classes are bigger than, like, say, third grades. This year's bigger than last year's or this year's first grade. So we're kind of handling both of those already. And Nan asked my question as well. I mean, we're able to work with parents who are homeschooling their children with the dual enrollment. So that would be my concern too, is the drop enrollment and, making sure that we have enough class sizes to handle that.
My concern would be for the river region students. Pretty much everything would have to be online. And the internet would be my concern for them, lack of internet. So I really have to think out the pros and cons of this at the moment. I might even have to chit chat with you later, Superintendent, and see if this is really doable way down here at the end of the state versus inner cities with the big school districts. There's a big difference.
Yes. And I'm happy to follow up with you with any questions you might have.
I guess I'm a proponent of fine arts in the community, and there's some things about this program that really make sense as far as fine arts are concerned, like the band program, learning how to play an instrument at home all by yourself or through private lessons. You just don't get the same experience as when you're with a band teacher and a group of students, a choir, drama productions, things like that. It really makes sense to have a program where they can come in and participate and get that as part of their education in the public schools. And even I think we could develop a reputation for we are an excellent provider of this subject and this subject and this subject in our schools, and we're desirable to, everybody wants to come to San Juan School District and get that class from whoever's teaching at the high school or whatever, And so there's some things I really like about the possibility of this program, and what's been done has been done as far as the the legislature taking that money and allocating it toward that. And I think, I feel personally, probably we need to, rather than fight it, embrace it. And timing, I don't know, but to embrace it. I think as far as the software concerns, the SIS and so forth, I don't know if a conversation has been held with software vendors to explain the situation and see what they can do to accommodate that exception, to the norm and things like that. But those are my thoughts right now.
I can speak just to the software component. The SIS system we use, Aspire, is the state SIS system that they have provided for us, and they have not figured out a back-end way to fix that yet. We're having conversations about that on Monday. They haven't figured that out. So not all of these school districts use the state Aspire system. Some of them have their own. The larger school districts have their own SIS system that they pay for separately. The state-funded one is what we choose to use. Saves us money. So anyway, yeah, so that one is still going to have to be reprogramming. We've had conversations with Jonathan English, and he could speak more to that on what that would entail, but that would be a project that we would need to add on. But it can be done. We just got to figure it out.
Well, excuse me, that I'm sure, I would guess that the state is trying to work that out, because this is a program that the state is sponsoring. It was, as Superintendent said, it was passed by the legislature, signed by the governor. And a few things that I noted as people were talking, how opportunities for kids to have this scholarship. As we've learned since the first meeting when this was brought up as a discussion item, we really didn't know anything, and that was the information brought to us. We don't know enough. I suggest we just not do it, and we all kind of said, okay. Well, in the meantime, we've learned things because we've had some parents who have the scholarship within our school district ask us if we will work with them, which I think is a huge plus, that they want to come to us and participate with us. And I would hope that we would be welcoming rather than, dig our heels in and say, well, we don't have it figured out, we don't want to figure it out, or have the resources. If we genuinely don't have the resources, then that's one thing. But I would hope that we would just not just on the surface, but we genuinely want to bring these students in for whatever classes it may be. And as Steve brought up, drama and band, and there's also the expertise of art or Navajo culture that would be hard to do at home alone without those the group effort. And so, but it's something that not everybody has to apply for. You get to apply. Everybody in Utah now can apply for these scholarships, is what I've learned, but nobody has to. So if it doesn't fit your area or your family or your student, then you don't apply. When you apply, not very many people got it. It's a lottery system, so there's not a lot of people. And most parents don't want to be responsible for their own kids' education. So, but there are many reasons throughout the country, not just Utah or San Juan County, why people want to homeschool or partially homeschool their kids. And they range from all over the place. Not that some people are maybe upset with their school districts. I think that's rare. But there's many other reasons why they may want to do that. But if they are upset with our school district and want to participate with us, we want to put out the friendly, yes, would love to have you. How can we work with you? And then another note, they are part of our school district, live within our county, and as board members, we were elected to help educate the public. So we're not elected to protect necessarily. I mean, it all rolls together, but we're not elected to protect the institution. We're elected to educate the students who live here in San Juan School District. Now, we don't have jurisdiction in Grand County or any other county outside of San Juan School District. And specifically, in Colorado, we had a request, not directly from parents to us, probably to the administration, but we had a request for students, to educate students in Colorado, from Colorado, come here. And it was agreed upon quickly by the school board to allow those students, and we didn't collect money from them or anything. And it will be costing us for the fee waivers for them to do extracurricular activities.
Those students are in Utah. Those students
Well,
were out of
we-
state
we,
for 1 month.
We approved it.
We did.
We
but
did
They
approve
are
it.
in, because there's
I
father
know,
teaches.
but this school board still approved to have other students. And so anyway, I'm just saying, these students, they live in our county, and they're asking, can we, we'd love to pay the money to to the San Juan School District, we want to participate with you. And so I would love to be the welcoming school district that says, we will work towards this. We can't put it in place today, but I would like to suggest we at least come back next month with the specific fee schedule that we've learned is really simple. $500 per semester and $100,000 for the year. And if somebody wants to take PE, art, band, those are some examples. And in elementary, I've helped in elementary classes, and when I go in to ask if I can help for a particular, say it's math or reading, whatever, the teachers already have a very set schedule of what time they do things in elementary every single day. I know that can change, just like it could change in secondary with an assembly or testing or something like that. Those can change, but they have a set schedule of when they do those things. It's set. They don't just, let's read for a while, and when we feel like it, we'll start doing math. They have very set times, so I don't see how it's difficult to do in elementary. I would think elementary would be easier because they don't get the credits and those types of things. And the large class sizes, and I can see why we would say that class is full, but we didn't even consider that when we agreed to allow out-of-state kids to attend.
We do consider that.
Well, we didn't as board members.
Right,
We didn't even know.
But we decline those before they ever come to you. So if there's not room in that class, though, you will not get those out of state.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
excuse me, I can't hardly speak, but we didn't discuss that as board members. So anyway, thank you for that information, but I would like to suggest we start out with a fee schedule and at least try, if we're not going to become vendors, to at least allow them to pay out of pocket is what at first it was like, we don't know enough. We're learning a whole lot, and these parents are asking if we will help with their kids who live right here in San Juan School District. So anyway, I would hope that we'd be welcoming to them.
But just to clarify, obviously it requires policy. It's not, I don't think we can come in next month and say, here's $1,000 per whatever, and just start. There's so many other steps I think that the superintendent outlined, and that's why she's saying these are the steps that have to be followed administratively to even implement this. So I don't think it's a 1 month, that can happen. I think we're looking at several months of processes to get through policy, back end, and so forth. So, if it's something the board feels that it's, yes, let's welcome it. It might be something if we say, yes, let's do a process, we would start more in the spring, so be ready to roll out in the new school year. Here we're already into, October
Yeah.
with that.
Well, we didn't, when it was first on the agenda, there was no information in our board packets provided to the school board members for us to, even know really why it was on our agenda. And if we would have known a little bit more about the topic, we could have researched some of that ourselves on, the state website, those types of things, but we didn't have that information, so it has dragged out, for a while. But there are two small school districts on this and, you know, piggyback off what they've already done. What are you doing? How did you, you know, policy, the fee schedule, those types of things would make it easier for us. We don't have to make it all up on ourselves. That's a waste of time. But I would hope we would try to accommodate parents in our district when they have requests to educate their kids, and that would be the intent of school board members, is to accommodate that easily. And this has been such a discussion where, you know, in out-of-state kids, we have less of a discussion.
I think for me, it would be need versus want. Yeah, you can want to have this scholarship and yeah, there's $8,000 that could come to the district, but that's not saying that all of it will come to the district and consistently come to the district. So yeah, we can make some money, but the realistic thing too is how much is it going to cost us to switch over to software, or if we have to get another software, or accommodate these students should they use the scholarship within our school district. And their homeschool, I would think they would be homeschool for specific reasons when it comes to scheduling. And if we have to create the policy that they need to be within the safety or, you know, all these other mandates that we would need to make exceptions for, I mean, again, for me, it comes to need versus want. We can't always get what we want in order to, we have to think of the students that we have overall within our district first. If we're going to accommodate one student who qualifies for the scholarship and who wants to do one class. For me, my worry would be we're going to take funding for the one student when we can use that funding for more than one student. So that would be my concern. And of course, I'm not completely opposed. Maybe eventually we're continuing to learn. It was just brought to us in June, was it June? And now we're in October. I mean, we're learning. Right now, that would be where my spot would be, need versus want, so. And the overall for the students.
I guess my concern would be that we don't wait a full year and start talking about it again in June and still not have all the information. So I think what we're asking as a board is just for us to spend a little more time on that, on figuring out how we would make it work and not just, and I think you have. I think you're looking into that a little bit more, so I do appreciate that. But that's kind of where I'm coming from.
And just so we're clear, in June, this work had already been done to say what were the challenges for us to roll out this program. This is the first year of this scholarship program, so it's a very short amount of time to say we're going to roll this out. Here are the guidelines. They changed the guidelines in the last legislative session from where they originally were. So the recommendation in June when I brought this, which was a very brief conversation, I could have given you a lot more information, but at that time, my recommendation is the same as it is now. I recommend we don't do it this school year. And if the board as a whole wants me to move forward and put those plans together, we can start working on it now. But I still recommend that we don't roll this out until next school year if the board decides that that's what they want to do, just because of the burden of putting it together and having it ready to go.
So maybe you could put this on the agenda again or a follow-up, more like in the spring.
Well, we probably want,
February, March.
I mean, policy alone is going to have to go to the policy committee and then 2 times in the school to the board. So we're probably looking at February would probably be when it needs to come back in order to have it ready for the next school year.
If we decide that's what we want.
Because it's not on our action items tonight, so it'd have to come back next month to even put on the action as an action item, so.
And it really, the reason it's not an action item is this is the chance for the board to say, we would like you to move forward in preparing for this, because there's really not an action you can take right now, right? Because we don't have a policy, we don't have a fee schedule for you to approve. All those things need to be approved by the board. So really, as of today, it's, asking administratively if you'd like it to move forward with us putting the plans together. If you want me to bring it back to a future board meeting, there's a number of options of what the board can advise us administratively of what you'd like us to do.
Can I ask how many students are interested so far?
We've had 3 families reach out to us.
Okay.
3 families or 3 students?
3 families.
So we don't even know the part exact.
But that doesn't mean there's not more. I mean, 3 is what is all we have heard from.
Well, only 3 people or 3 families in San Juan County received the scholarship.
I don't
So-
know how many have received a scholarship, and that changes all the time because if someone rejects the scholarship, then a new person gets added
So
in.
there could be additional, no, from what I understand, there are 3 families at this point, but if that's the case, then that could increase. I don't know this for sure, but I think they're all elementary students. Does any?
No.
No? Okay, some are high school? High school, junior high?
Junior high. So probably just keep it on the radar. That's what I'm gathering.
I don't think we should bring it back next month, but maybe in December. We are losing some board members. I think we have some people that have an interest in this and would like to be part of the conversation, so.
And if that's the case, I would really like to know how it would affect my river region, because essentially that's a big part of our district. And that's going to affect a lot of what our students, what it will entail for our students there.
See, that's what I don't understand is how it affects anybody unless there's a class size they can't, they can't get into. It's just too big, but I don't know how it would affect anybody negatively.
Hence why I'm asking if we can, if we can bring that back, because
Yeah,
I mean, I'd like to ensure if it's not going to, then I would like to be confident and say that that's something should we as a board or at the
Yeah.
district.
How is that different? We haven't asked that of any of the students, I mentioned the Colorado because we don't get any funding from them when we have federal impact aid students, we still get funding for them when they're out of state. And these same questions just have not been asked intently of students who aren't our constituents. These are our constituents, part of our area of responsibility. So they are all included in our area of responsibility, and we approve people who are outside our area of responsibility with a lot less questions and a lot less how it would affect our school district. And Colleen, do you have a question about my question?
No,
Or my-
no,
Okay.
I think Lori already clarified about the Colorado students, as well as we have clarification and from our Arizona students, so that wouldn't be my main concern. My main concern is that, I mean, if our River Region students can qualify for the scholarship or, get it provided here,
yeah.
I want to know how that will affect them as well as the district as a whole.
Everybody in the state of Utah can apply for the
Right.
scholarship.
I understand that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
River Region too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Board President, can I speak?
You sure may.
I think that was my question earlier for River Region students, how they would benefit with this. I mean, and this is your answer, Mary. A lot of these families do not have internet.
It's not
And if they was to get a live person to come and give that music lesson, where are they going to find such a person in Monument Valley, Aneth, Montezuma Creek? So those are the things that like I said earlier, I would like to get feedback if this is possible. And I do understand it's up to the family to opt in, opt out. But if this is beneficial, if we're getting a lot of interest in it on the River Region, and they are my constituents, and I'm for it. But this is something that we can't just do overnight. It's going to take, we've all got questions. It's going to take a while. So with that said, I think we're beyond our break time. So I would like to request that we go to break.
Well,
Okay, let me just wrap this up. So, Nan, would you be more in favor of, and Colleen, of course, and Nelson, more in favor of, if it's something you really want to explore more January, because then you'll have your board different versus, because really our input would be null and void by then.
I don't think it's null and void. I think.
Oh, she said in January.
No, I know, I'm just saying in December, the current board members, your input is still valid.
Okay.
I'm not saying that we have to absolutely decide something, but I think
Sure.
that we should be part of the discussion. I mean, obviously, I'm still going to be, and Colleen and Nelson are still going to be, but the rest of you, it is going to change, so let's, I don't want us to wait until spring. I don't want us to wait.
So
I
would you
feel like we
rather-
need to we need to reach a point where we do decide to have it on the policy discussion in February. I think that it involves us talking in December about that and adding it to February.
December or January? Which would you rather?
December.
December.
I mean, I know it's going to be a new board, but I think we're the ones that have started the conversation. I think we should.
Sure.
What do you think, Colleen?
I prefer to go into the spring because even though Mary and Steve and maybe Lori yourself would be interested, essentially it's going to be the new board that's going to make the decision on it. And for being frank, I mean, you can watch on YouTube or the live feed as well, and of course make a comment should you disagree or agree with it. That's more than you're right. But as a board, I would prefer the spring. I mean,
Maybe January, you could put it on and start pursuing that discussion. I mean, you could roll it into every month if you choose to.
Well, Steve and Mary, what's your opinion on that?
Well, you know me, I've already said I'd like to pursue this. You know, when the spend plans were required of all the school districts, there were 2 or 3 years they gave us to get on board, all districts in the state of Utah. I was really grateful and proud to be a San Juan School District board member because we knocked it out and we were completely ready a year ahead of time. And I know there's some challenges here, but there's 2 small school districts here, already on here, and I would love to just work with those school districts and move this forward because we can wait till next year. There are going to be different students on, asking for this. I'm just looking at these kids. I mean, I don't know all these kids, but I'm just looking at these kids and wanting to be part of educating them and including them in classes that fit. So, and for instance, Nelson, when you were asking, it's the classes that they want to participate with San Juan School District and not be online. And I say embrace it. Let's invite them in. Let's have them be part of any of those classes that they would like to be and show them how good we are. When we were listening to Barbara, all the things they are doing to encourage those kids in Bluff, that will be the highlight of this board meeting for me, is listening to that. And let's show them what good things we're doing. Let's be partners with the parents. We talk about in education all the time, partnerships with parents and working together. So this doesn't feel like trying to work together, and it feels more like we don't agree with the law, so let's just take this a little bit slower.
I don't know that I agree with that. I don't feel like we're being hard-nosed about it. I think we're saying embrace it, and I think we've got to take into consideration everything that comes with it. You can't just say, here, come on in, pay your money at the door, welcome, and here you go. I think we have to look at the fiscal tag that belongs with it, and yeah, you may collect $500 or $1,000 per credit, but have we looked at how much is it going to cost our admin to funnel this whole thing out? And like we say, we have a principle of looking at policies for 3 months. So you can't just write the policy today and have it done tomorrow.
Look up South End Beats.
That's part of why I'm suggesting that we get on it now
Exactly.
instead of
So-
waiting until
Yes.
next year.
Yes, so that's what I agree with.
Yeah.
So we can definitely do that. My only concern is you are going to have a new board that will be the one approving this policy and the fee schedule. So
Yeah.
it could be that administratively we put that together with our policy committee, and then it could totally go a different way. So you may have to
At least we
do.
would be moving forward.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with looking at it moving forward. Ultimately, your new board will make that decision.
final
But
decision,
As far
so-
but I don't think it's a matter of just not embracing it. I think it's looking at every aspect and angle to make it work effectively for all parties involved. It's not just a parent or a student, it's admin, it's so many moving parts that have to be looked at, so.
And I just want to say, my intention was not to say that because this is a voucher program, we shouldn't do it. So I apologize if that's the message that came across. My intention to say is we are adding an additional program to San Juan School District that is very program heavy, that is a very complex school district. And so it is a bit of a heavy lift to get it going. So if the board decides this is the route they want to go, we need the time to put that together and the direction to say, as a board, that we would like you to start working on it so that it's ready to go for the next school year. Knowing that a new board is coming in and they may say, no, we're not going to do it for next school year. So my feeling is, you know, if you want to give me direction on how you'd like me to go through the end of this year with the board and what you'd like me to do, but I also don't want to duplicate work. So December, January, starting working on a policy, I really think that would give us enough time to get it ready for the new school year. I don't know how, it would be difficult to roll this out for this school year knowing that we're already in
Yeah, and I'm not
October.
expecting it. I understand that it would be extremely difficult for this year, but I think it would also be extremely difficult for next year if we don't start looking into it now.
So maybe have policy review, and then, because you could start there, December update with what's happened with policy, I would think. Then, because
Yes,
that's the
so-
first step anyway, you've got to have the policy come to policy review committee.
Right, so these other small school districts, we look at their policy. I know we take policy from other school districts all the time, look at theirs, tweak them for ours. But for 9 school districts, to get it up to speed and have it in place already, and 2 of them are small, I don't see why it takes, a year, and then we lose out on helping these students participate with San Juan School District.
Well,
So-
and just to comment on that, these other school districts don't have the special issues that we have to. We have to deal with Navajo Nation as well as state regulations. So we're an entity within an entity over the state, over federal too. So we have to think about it in that complex, whether it's Navajo Nation or White Mesa as well too. I mean, I'm just thinking of the overall picture, and I'm not opposed to starting into it and looking into it, but we have to be realistic about it a lot too. I mean, this year is definitely not going to be when we'll implement it, should we decide to, because we have a lot of factors. We're losing board members as well as we're gaining board members, and who knows, those 3 might change their mind as well and become 2 or 1, and then software and everything else like that as well. So I agree with Nan that we got to look into it overall, but the other thing my question was going to be was, the reason why I wanted to look into spring was because we have legislation coming up too. Who's to say that will change there as well? I mean, I'm just looking at the overall picture of, there's going to be a lot of changes coming, and that will come January for sure too. So that's where I'm at. I just want to see what's going to come, because I don't know.
So I think we're kind of looking toward December.
Okay, and what would you like to come back in December?
What would you like in December? What's your
I
process?
think just a rough, like what it would require to do the policy changes,
So
I
we'd have
think.
to meet in November for policy. If you could have anything somewhat available for that November meeting. Okay. All right, so we're going to break, because these other 2 discussions will take a little bit of time, and so we'll close session, so we'll just come back at 6. Does that work? Okay, thanks.
Are we? She said she was coming, so I just don't see her yet.
I guess I'll just do it.
Excuse me. Are we doing that first?
Well, actually, no, my voice is up. Do it this one. I'm sorry. Just like it sounds.
Christie, is she here?
She said not. She said she's coming.
I'll start with Nicole. Do you want to wait until both show? Or?
Start at 6. We can always go back to her, I guess.
Hey, Mary, so the one we need to do at 7.
Are we good to go, Erin?
Yes, you're good.
All right, so. Thank you to the public who joined us for our recognition awards and also for our citizens comment periods. So we enjoy this time where we can celebrate the good work of our employees, and one of them actually is not here yet, so we hope she, oh, there she is.
Perfect timing.
Yes, perfect timing, so. Okay, so Nicole Wallace, yes, come on up to the front. And you're gonna come right here and face the audience, and it's kind of a production we have, so. You're gonna smile big for the camera, and Colleen will speak.
All right. So San Juan Sweet Jobs, the following individual is Miss Nicole Wallace, 4th and 5th grade teacher at Bluff Elementary School. Nicole has been an awesome leader in our school. She takes the initiative to get things accomplished and is willing to help her team. Nicole has led out on projects and many times does more than her share, so we can move forward with our goals. With the organization skills of Nicole, her team and others around could benefit from this. Thanks for your leadership at Bluff, Barbara. Nicole is extremely organized and is willing to help anyone out. She is always prepared her lead teacher duties and goes out of her way to help out her teachers. She is friendly and kind to everyone. Her students love her and have seen many come back and talk with her. Nicole is a joy to work with, and I appreciate all she does to help our school run smoother. It's Heidi Noise. Nicole is a hard worker. She goes above and beyond when given a project or an assignment to complete. She has dedication and passion for teaching as she works to ensure each student's success. She is a lead teacher and takes her responsibilities seriously as she provides support for teachers, the school, and administration. The support she provides is truly appreciated. Nicole is driven and desires to do as well as a teacher and provide instruction that is quality and engagement. Bluff School would have a big hole if she were to ever leave. Thank you, Nicole. You are amazing. Barbara. And I can attest to this as she is my son's teacher as well, so I know her to be an amazing individual. So, congratulations.
Official pictures.
Then we have Rebecca. I've got to get your full name, Stoneman Washi, yes. Did we get that correct? Okay, come on up. Yep, very fun. We're glad you're with us.
We had an anonymous nomination, and they said this, Rebecca is always happy to see everyone and can tell that she loves her job. She always has a smile and is very helpful. Brenda Whitehorse said this, Rebecca is awesome. She provides support to heritage language teachers in ensuring that packets and materials needed for Navajo language classes are provided each week or when requested. She also designs resources such as Dene calendars and instructional materials with teacher input for lessons. Rebecca is a hard worker, positive, and deserves a high five. Congratulations.
You can shake hands first. Okay. I don't want to interrupt the picture. Thank you.
There we go.
Can I say one thing? Am I allowed to say something?
Absolutely.
Okay, 13 years ago, well, actually way before that, when I was working at Edge of the Cedars, we used to have
Kathy Hurst, we used to call her at the media center, as it was called then, and to print some of the project materials that we were doing. And I'd go over there, and while they were printing, she'd be showing me some of the fun things she was working on. And I said, Kathy, you have the best job in San Juan. So it really is a sweet job, and I'm very lucky to meet you.
Well, we're very lucky.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here. Okay, we now have our citizens comment period, and we thank both of you employees for the work you do for the district. Obviously, you influence a lot of people in the work that you do, so thank you. So you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you're welcome to leave also. So I just have a disclosure before the public comment period. The purpose of the San Juan School District Board of Education meeting is for the board to conduct its business in public as provided by law. The San Juan School District Board of Education values and welcomes public comment, so time is allotted in our public meetings for such. However, to maximize its benefit, there must be structure and consistency with the practice. With that in mind, please know that public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective criticism of school operations and programs, but complaints about school personnel or other persons will not be allowed. Individuals expressing comments should not expect an immediate response from the board. Please understand that the public comment period is not a debate, an interactive question and answer session, or a dispute resolution forum, but is an opportunity for you to express your comments, suggestions, and concerns to the board for our information and consideration. A member of the district staff will respond to patrons who request a follow-up meeting or information. So, as I can see tonight, I do have 3 papers. Has anyone else turned one in? Okay, so we will start with Stetler Shumway. And if you'll come to the mic and use the mic, please, so that people can hear it. And there is a timer that Erin will set. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm here in support of the San Juan School District becoming a provider for the Utah Fits All Scholarship. And I'm asking you to move forward now to become a provider to allow the scholarship students to take courses throughout the district during this school year. As a father, I've been given a fortunate opportunity to have a front row seat in watching my child grow, face challenges, learn new things, and become someone special. It is evident she will be successful. Part of that credit goes towards the academic work, studying, encouragement, and time she spends and gets at home. We have found value in at-home learning, and I have been able to be a helping hand in some of her homeschooling, which admittedly has been more beneficial than I initially thought. However, I have also enjoyed watching her develop talents, knowledge, and learn worthwhile life lessons at school, many of those lessons which she cannot learn just at home. She truly thrives in both environments. Although this type of learning may not fit everyone's needs, there are several families in our district who have found the same benefit in this opportunity. A few of those families are scholarship recipients. Please don't take this monumental opportunity away from these students and families that are requesting this for this year. Please consider these special students in our district when making a choice. They each have unique talents and amiable personalities that would be a delight in our classrooms. They would undeniably be great additions. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. And we have Zuri Shumway. Do you want to come up here? You need to stand on a chair so you can use the microphone. Okay.
Hi, my name is Zuri, and I'm in 1st grade. I love learning. My favorites are math, reading, and Spanish. I love learning with my parents, and I also want to take classes at home like PE and STEM. Please become a provider so I can have this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were very brave to come talk to us. Thank you. Okay, and then Courtney.
Okay, so you can see why I'm so passionate about this. She's my why I do this all, and she makes me really proud. So, and she's also who you as elected officials represent as she's a student in San Juan County. So I was able to listen in on the discussion today about the district becoming a provider, and I just want to address some of the concerns that were mentioned. There were some concerns about how it would affect the Navajo Nation, and so how the scholarship works is any student in the state of Utah can apply for the scholarship, so anybody is eligible for it, and then based on how it's given out is first it's given out needs-based to low-income families, and then after that it's based on a lottery process. So it doesn't affect who can apply for it. So looking at it that doesn't affect anybody differently. And then given that we were given a chance from this because of the lottery, that's why I want to utilize this opportunity this year, rather than wait and have her be able to take valuable classes within the district now. And then you also asked if the Navajo Nation were to be able to become scholarship recipients, how it would affect them. And if they were a scholarship recipient, it would only affect them if you weren't a provider. So if you didn't become a provider and they were a recipient, they would not be able to come in person and take courses. And so, like you mentioned, the internet barriers, that would become a problem if you weren't a provider. So by becoming a provider, it actually creates potential opportunities if any of those students were to become a scholarship recipient. And then you also mentioned the challenge of time, and I understand that there are steps that need to be taken for this, but I ask you as board members to consider taking those steps now so they can be implemented sooner rather than later. Because the longer you keep these students from courses at the classrooms, the more they are missing out on. And like those fine art classes that you mentioned with like band and drama, that can really set them back if they're out a full year from that. And so every year of growth is substantial for a student, and so please help this move forward now so these students can get into the classroom this year, even if it's in, the next semester. We'd appreciate any time that they can get in. And so by ultimately not becoming a provider now, there's a huge obstacle placed in these students' lives, and it can hinder their potential growth. And so I say we have a great opportunity ahead, and let's utilize that.
I really appreciate it.
That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, so, okay. I don't believe there's any more public comment, right, Laura? Okay. All right, we actually have some more items to cover on our agenda, so you're welcome to stay while we go to those, or you are welcome to leave, whichever you prefer. So we actually are going to go back to item number 10 and 11 for ESSER funding overview and fund balance review. So Tyrell, if you want to take the lead on those.
Yep. So September 30th marked the end of our ARP ESSER award. That was when the expenditures had to be made for that award. And so just attached to the board agenda is just a breakdown of expenditure by year for, I have a typo on there and put ESSER 1, and it's actually ESSER 2 award. So the top group of expenditures are the ESSER 2 award, and the bottom is our ESSER 3 or ARP ESSER. You can see between those two grants and programs, we were over $9 million that we received to address the challenges that came with the pandemic. Really grateful for the district team. We had so many of our directors and people that were involved in helping us come up with initiatives to spend these funds. And so this is just kind of a breakdown of what they were spent on. The second attachment kind of just addresses what some of those initiatives were. And this isn't something that you haven't heard before. We've talked about in previous board meetings. In fact, we talked about it last year. Just wanted to let the board know kind of where we stood. We've spent everything from those programs, so we're just receiving we'll receive our last reimbursement from that grant program in the next month or two, hopefully this next month. So that's $9 million, and we talked about this a little bit in June, in that that is money that we won't have moving forward, right? It helped us do a lot of good things, helped us respond in a way that we needed to, but it is money, excuse me, that is not ongoing. And so that's been somewhat of a challenge in adjusting and figuring out how we're going to move forward without those resources available to us to continue some of the good work and initiatives that were done. Some of those things were one-time expenditures that we spent, I mean, we're sitting in one of those expenditures that helps us with an ability to broadcast our meetings in a better way from the district office so that, our public can better have better access to our meetings. And so just, I guess really just if there's any other questions that the school board has regarding our ESSER funds, we just wanted to provide another update that we have now completed our spending of those grant programs.
Any questions for Tyrell?
I have a question. Then this is specific to the LAN. I know we were awarded just recently. Well, actually, the question was brought to me of the breakdown of the funding for that. And you said we've spent all from that. Was that correct?
From
Whether it be the 1 point, I think it was 3 that was awarded through the LAN improvement and maintenance and all that. That was questioned as whether we utilize all the funds for that.
So we received initially, it was back in 2020.
Right.
I think we received an initial award to get that project up and running. So that was a long time ago. That was several $1 million. And there was a mad dash to provide some services. So that was all spent then. We've used these ESSER funds to continue the operation of that that project so that it can continue to serve those students. And so that's what we've been using the last several years, as there's just been ongoing maintenance needs, was through this program. And then we were also awarded from the state some money to continue that for the next 5 years. And so we do have some additional funding that will help us continue to provide the broadband service to those students.
And now are all those services provided to all, I think it was 318, I think it was students or student homes? Was that fully, all the students were able to get those internet provisions?
I think Aaron.
Aaron might have the number of homes that we've served.
It changes all the time.
Yeah, we have 385 homes connected, and as I've said before, topology affects if we can get to homes,
right,
electricity, and distance from radio towers.
Okay.
So we serve we serve 385 homes, but I don't think that any of us think that's all of the homes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay, anything else? All right. Let's move to our next one then.
Okay. The next one is for the board's discussion. I know you've had discussions on this in the past, many of you. Just wanted to provide an update kind of on where we stand with fund balance. These are estimates. We'll receive our audit report in hopefully next month or December. But these are our figures for, there's 3 that we'll focus on, right, is our unassigned, our general fund balance, and then our building reserve and capital fund balances there. Those are the ones we spend a little bit more focus on. And so just wanted, on the attachment there, you can kind of see those balances. I'll start on the right-hand side of the page, and then we'll come back to the left. So you have the building reserve fund balance of 15.2, capital fund balance of 26.2, but when you add in the 23.3 million from the grant funding, brings kind of a net balance of 49. Those currently show, like in our financials, as a deferred revenue because they are specific for the projects that we applied for the grant. So we have the funds available, but they don't show up in a fund balance necessarily. And so you combine those two balances to give us a total, that's kind of designated and set aside for capital needs within our school district of almost $65 million. And so looking at those bottom 3 lines there, those are just kind of the estimated remaining costs of the approved projects that you all have done. So the Blanding Elementary School, the entryways, and our transportation replacement. So it gives you a total balance there of what we have after all of those projects are completed. So, I mean, kind of going back to our conversation to start this board meeting with the Utah State. Like all of our projects that we have, we've set aside the money, and it's all there available for us to address those projects. It's not like there's anything else hanging out there that we don't have the money for, and that's our balance after we're done. This does not include any estimations for revenue that we'll receive this year, because obviously we will have that, and it will add to that balance at the end of this fiscal year. So that's not included in this figure, just based on end of fiscal year 24. And then on the left-hand side of the page is your Fund 10, your operation budget, and I know the board has had discussions in the past about, large fund balances. There's been several reasons why, we have contributed to the fund balance over the past several years. COVID relief money is one of those factors. Our interest rates that we've been earning on our fund balance has been significantly higher than it has in the recent history, and that contributes. Is it a good thing? It's a good thing to have. That's money that goes into the available funds for the school district to address needs, that puts no additional burden on any taxpayer, local funds. Like it's just the interest that we earn off of those dollars. And so, just looking at some targets and things there, the third line or third number down there is kind of a target possibly to maintain in the fund balance, and that comes from the state auditor's office as a target of what you should keep in your unassigned fund balance to address needs as they arise, of 25% of your total expenditures from the previous fiscal year. So that first line up above is the 51.7, almost $8 million was our total expenditure from the previous fiscal year, and so 25% of that is where that number comes from. And so you can see just below that is what remains for, possible designation for use by the school board. I know 5 years ago, the school board made a decision to transfer a lot of that money into the capital fund to address ongoing needs and future needs for facilities. And so that's there. And then you can see just below that, one thing that we come and bring out of this as a recommendation is, with that significant amount of interest revenue that we've been receiving and are still receiving in this fiscal year. Again, this is all fiscal year 24 end numbers. It doesn't include anything for this year. A recommendation that would like to bring to the school board is to look at doing a one-time payout, as has been done in the past, for employees of the greater of 2% or 750, and an estimate of what that could possibly impact the fund balance there, to utilize some of that for that purpose. And then the remaining is, possible designation or use for other things, whether that's transfer to the capital fund or, there are some other one-time needs that we've had that we'll continue to have. I believe the decision was made several years ago. We set aside and assigned some of this balance to pay for the track improvements in Monticello, Montezuma Creek, Monument Valley. Those are bigger one-time expenditures that could be done. And there's some things like that, whether it's technology, facilities related, that we could identify and bring back. There's some safety needs that are also related to facility and technology needs. And I think, Superintendent, you were going to talk on some of those things that could possibly use a designation for that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight, the House Bill 84 amendments that are there required for us to, and we don't know the timeline, they haven't given us the timeline, but I wanted to highlight some of those. Some of this money could be used for that. So wearable panic alert buttons for all teachers that communicate directly with 911, that's a requirement. Repeaters for first responder radios that ensures a strong signal, so when first responders respond to a school that they have that access. So that's for all of our schools. Limited entry points, which we are working on and have funding set aside for. Video surveillance of entries when school is in session. So we do have video cameras, but there are other needs for video cameras, improvements that we could do that this money could go towards. This is a big one, ground level windows protected by security film or ballistic film. So that's all exterior ground floor windows in all of our buildings. So that's a big expense. Internal classroom door locks, bleed kits and first aid kits for every classroom. So stop the bleed is part of this amendment, this bill. Exterior cameras on entrances, parking areas, and campus grounds, and then fencing around playgrounds, which we currently do have. So I just wanted to highlight those things that are going to be, they're mandated for us to implement. While we don't have the timeline, we know that they're coming. And this is directly from the survey they've asked us to complete. this year, this fall, to say, what are we in progress of working on and what have we completed in our buildings? So we are already being asked to report, where we're at for a school district. So just wanted to highlight those, as this is another potential area that we could, spend this money on. And we are going to be writing a grant for some of these items, hoping to get awarded some of that funding from that $50 million that the state has set aside for safety for all schools.
Did you
I have
more?
Oh, so I mean, unless there's
So I
questions
guess
from the
what
board.
you have two the payout, and then are these kind of more your recommendations, that list?
Yeah, I think it's looking at us doing a needs assessment to say what are our immediate needs that money could be moved for. In our discussions, that's what it's been. Because some of these fall under facilities, some of them are technology, some are just safety in general. So really looking at, what could that needs assessment look like that money could be spent on. Do you want to add anything?
Oh, did you have a comment, Mary?
Yeah, where most or a lot of lights anymore are being converted to LED. Our football lights throughout our district it's probably a good time to be doing that, because there's the expense of doing it, but then there's the saving on the back end. And so I would say that is something that we need to look at,
Absolutely.
Sooner than later, so that we get that saving and the better lighting. We have lighting issues, not just for the football games, but for the crowd and things that are going on around football games as well. So that's my suggestion.
Yeah, and I think that's why we, just as a quick comment in response to that, was to bring to the board that there is this money available, and we've had some of those same thoughts, right? And we don't have a specific request or recommendation for those things right now. We don't know what those might cost, but those are some of the things that we've identified as possible one-time expenditures that are larger in scope, but could be used for these things.
Well, and there's grant money available too, and if we can get grant money to pay for switching out to LED, that would obviously be preferable than spending our money to save our money for things there isn't grant money. Also, I don't know about the bleachers in all of our gyms, but we have some needs in some of our gyms for safety, being able to. I'm at the age now when I get to San Juan High School, and I believe Monticello High School is the same way. Is Whitehorse High School the same, or do they have? I should not be expected, or neither should anybody, even somebody young, to step up onto a seat to start stepping up the bleachers. How many of us can step up where we're sitting? That's your first step. And we've had some injuries, and so that I would love to see us look into improving these bleachers or replacing the bleachers with something that is more safe, because they're hazardous.
So I guess my question would be could we, obviously we're looking at the payout, but with what's left, could we have more of a prioritized list for next month?
Yeah.
Maybe some price tag guesstimates on it?
Yep,
Is that
absolutely.
what we're kind of thinking? I think that would guide us a little better as to where to put it, and because all those safety things are huge, especially when it comes to our schools, and keeping the students and teachers safe. So
Would a lot of those safety, we could get grants, right, for that, you said, or is it more likely that we have to pay?
So there is a grant opportunity that's coming that will be open, I believe, in January. That $50 million of the money was set aside for all schools across the state, including charter schools, to write for that grant. So that opportunity will present itself. It's not a guarantee, but we should be able to get some support from that for the needs of our schools. But there still will be significant other things.
So we can make a list should we get the grant, and then a list if we don't. Okay.
Yeah, and I think really what we were hoping is just to bring this to the board, knowing that we would do a needs assessment and come back with those specific items.
I like that.
For those things.
Thank you for doing that and bringing this process along, so that we can follow this and just have the discussion today, and with this list, and then add to it and give input. That's great, so thank you.
couple of years ago, I had, Tyrell, if you remember, have you do an exercise where you figured out the replacement costs of all of our buildings. And what I was wanting to know really is how much we need to save every year in order to replace all of our buildings on a cycle. And it seems like it came up with, $7 million or something like that, and that was a couple of years ago. And so anyway, that's always on my mind is, we're getting some older buildings with our high schools and everything, and start looking forward on how we're going to replace those eventually. So I hope we don't spend all of that on the here and now. I think we need to look for the future on replacing some of those.
I thank you for that comment, because I agree with that, and we also need to do that in conjunction with doing this. I think of the fairly new asphalt that was replaced at Blanding Elementary, and we probably could have gotten by with what there was and not recently have replaced that when we were replacing the building. So that's one of the things on the building that the school board and designates as the next one. Then you do the minimal repairs on that building until it can get just completely replaced. And so we need to keep those kinds of things in mind as we move forward, knowing which building would be the next one, and not do a bunch of Band-Aid stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a constant balance of addressing the immediate concerns of what needs to be addressed and planning for the long-term future. But I wholeheartely agree. I think, Steve, when we looked at that, it was also painted kind of a bleak picture that we didn't know that we would be able to, at our current rate, replace those buildings when they needed to be replaced. So I don't anticipate us even ever coming up with a list of one-time needs right now that would be an expenditure of that total remaining funds. And so, similar to what was done several years ago, look at possibly making another transfer of that to your capital fund to help with those long-term needs of replacement or major remodel of facilities. So we'll definitely go through this exercise and work through, give some more specifics. I think this month we for sure wanted to bring it to the board's attention that here's kind of a snapshot, an overview of where we're at today, and then we'll go through this. And knowing that the one recommendation that we do have would like to at least have a decision on that by next month's board meeting, so we can get that paid out by November.
So that's the payout.
That's the payout. And then the rest of this process, with identification of expenditures we could go through.
And it is a possible action item, so if that's what you want to do as a board, that could occur today, knowing that it's going to be paid out on that November paycheck. But we also could take it continue to next month as well. But as far as the other needs assessment and recommendations, we'll bring that next month if that's the direction you want us to go.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Would ARL's plumbing issue be one of those one-time payout things? I know that was something that. Would that fall under that? I know.
I think that's different.
Kind of different. We have ongoing maintenance funds that take care of those kinds of issues as they're needed.
As we've been discussing here, we've been talking about, the lights at the football field and things like that, stuff that we might notice as board members, but do you feel like we have a good idea from our building administrators, what they're seeing needs to be done at their schools and things like that? Do we have that information from them? Do we have that input from them, or do we need to get it?
That's a really good point and a really good question. We've gone through some of that, and I know that our buildings and grounds director typically is also involved with those principals on addressing needs. Something that actually Superintendent and I've talked about doing, especially with a new buildings and grounds director coming on board shortly, is just getting with all of our building principals and addressing with them who are in the building every day, what are the needs that you're seeing, and creating a list from that. So that's something we plan on and will be doing in the next several months to work with our schools to address the things that they're seeing as they're there every day. To come up with a better idea of list. There's some things that are, we deem as just small that we can address with just ongoing funds that the budget that we create for our maintenance department every year. Other things that are larger that we need to address, kind of at a board level of this is a larger one-time outlay that needs to be approved by you all. So we'll definitely be doing that to get some more input from each of them.
Okay. All right.
Well, we talked about, this is what I thought you were going to say, Steve. We talked about all of these things more in the actual projects, but we didn't really talk about, it's just listed the payout. Does everybody understand the payout, or is that just, because that's what we're being encouraged to vote for, and so I mean, I understand what that is, but I've been on the board for a little while and it's been repeated. You guys have too, but do you know what they're talking about with the payout, and that we could vote for that and do it in November or December or not at all? We have those choices as board members.
If you would like to.
Do you know that? I mean, do you know what we're talking about?
Partially, but
It
if you
hasn't
wanted to
been
go into
explained.
detail of it, I wouldn't mind that either.
Yeah, so this would be just a one-time payout, so it's not impacting your salary schedule at all, right? It's a one-time payout. We have internal reports that give us, that estimate there comes from internal reports that our team has created. Jonathan English has created a report that helps us identify how much that would be. So it's just a 2% of, the salary for every employee, or $750. So whichever is greater. If you have someone that is an employee that 2% would be less than $750, we'd pay the $750. Right. So that would be a one-time, we've done this several times with different iterations. We did it with some of the ESSER money that we just talked about was used for the same thing as extra effort stipends in response to the pandemic. This would be out of fund balance, and so it'd be separate from that, but it would just be that 2%. It would be for all employees who have a regular scheduled job with us. So that's, I guess, is there other details, more information that you'd like to know on that?
Nope. Okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's jump down. We'll go into closed last, so let's jump down to consent agenda. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Nan, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the consent? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? All right, let's go to our action items. So I need a motion to approve the USD Monument Valley Building lease assignment.
I move to approve the USU Monument Valley Building lease assignment.
Okay, motion by Mary. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposed? Okay. The EMS CTE interlocal agreement with San Juan County. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll move to approve the EMS CTE interlocal agreement with San Juan County.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Colleen. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, School Land Trust final report and plans / signature form due dates to approve what Julie presented.
I move that we approve the School Land Trust final report and plans / signature forms due dates.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, San Juan School District Policy 4180. This is regarding the substitute teachers. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I make a motion to approve the policy 4180.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? policy 6120 regarding admissions general requirements. Do we have a motion to approve that policy?
I move to approve the changes to policy 6120.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, this is to approve the out-of-state transfer student request. There was one. So if I can get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the out-of-state transfer student.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
All right, any discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
This would be the utilization of the fund balance for the payout that was discussed. If we have a motion for that?
I move that we approve the utilization of the fund balance for the teacher payout.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll
Employee
second.
payout.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, just wondering if her, I mean, she said teacher
Employee,
and
I
then
meant
she said
employee.
employee, so that
Just
should be
alter that to be employee.
clarified.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Just make it employee instead of teacher.
employee payout, okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Oh. We should have gotten close before, well, if we have to come back out.
We haven't gotten to it.
I was gonna say, if we need to do anything on real property when we come out of close, we can for that item. So do you want to hit the information items real quick?
So next board meeting will be November 13th here at the district office and also virtually. Fall break is October 11th coming up, and teacher workday will be October 14th, so there's no school in session. And then Veterans Day is November 11th, so no school on that day either.
Okay. All right, I need a motion to go into closed session for the discussion of purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
I make a motion to go to closed session for purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
Okay, motion by Colleen, do I have a second? Steve, okay, roll call, Nan, will you start?
Nan Barton, yes.
Colleen Benelli, yes.
Steve Black, yes.
Lori Mon, yes?
Mary Shumway, yes.
Okay.
Did we lose Nelson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Nelson's not here. Okay,
Black, yes.
Colleen Benelli, yes.
Dan Barton, yes.
okay, so we are in closed session for the discussion of litigation.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, Nan.
Dan Barton, yes.
Colleen Benelli, yes.
Steve Black, yes.
Lori Mon, yes?
Mary Shumway, yes.
Okay.
Do you want both of us to leave, or is it just, because I think you're talking about both evaluations?
Yeah.
Can